Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 9th round of the 2017 Formula Challenge Championship from the GPVWC. Jake Sanson here in the commentary box, overlooking the start-finish line at the Hungrary circuit here in Budapest, one of my favourite cities on the planet. It's been a while since I've been to the Budapest circuit, I have to say. I last touched down at the Hungrary 2 years ago for a round of the Formula Challenge Trofeo Pirelli, where the guest of honour in his Ferrari 599XX demonstrations was Sebastian Vettel. This is a great circuit. It's a fantastic atmosphere, and you really do get the very best of both worlds with this place. You get incredible speeds down the main straight, but you also get some pretty spectacular battles around the circuit as well. It's a truly fantastic venue for motor racing. You really do have to keep your wits about you around this place as well. It's a tough circuit, an incredibly tough environment to be part of, but you really do get an absolutely incredible thrill around this particular circuit. The Formula Challenge cars out on the circuit in the bid to catch the championship leader, Maciej Mlenek. It is an amazing start to the season from Maciej. She's been an absolute powerhouse in the first 16 races of the season, 2 races each weekend. Of course, the 9th round of the championship will signal the 17th and 18th races of the season. Last time out at Silverstone, the Brasilia team were on absolute storm last time out with their 2 drivers, Maciej Mlenek and Mike Quint, taking victories last time out at the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, with a win for Mlenek in the first and for Quint in the second. And that increases Maciej Mlenek's advantage in the Drivers' Championship as well to 58 points over Roy Schroeter, with Chris Shepherd and David Junt tied for 3rd position in the standings coming into this 3rd round of the season, with Mike Quint, Menno Klont, James Early, and then Liam de Waal and Roy Verzeel tied for 8th position, with Patrick Gerber rounding out the top 10. There's been some pretty entertaining races over the course of the last 3 months of racing, starting all the way back in Australia to Sochi, to Shanghai, to Barcelona, to the Red Bull Ring, to Monaco, to Montreal, to Silverstone, and now to one of my favourite race circuits on the planet, never mind in Grand Prix racing, the Hungrary, an amazing circuit with so many complex overtaking opportunities. If you are brave enough, you probably wouldn't get as many in the real world of motor racing as you would here, with people determined to try and find that little bit something extra, and you get some absolutely cracking overtakes from those who are brave enough to challenge for it. But what a sensational time we are due to have around this absolutely terrific circuit, with so many great drivers in this championship, as we know already. We've had some cracking races, and in the qualifying session we are now with 12.5 minutes to go, so plenty of time for the drivers to get underway for their qualifying laps. The first ones out on the circuit are no surprise at all. The likes of Chris Shepherd and Maciej Mlenek already starting to throw a good lap in early. The first sector, you're looking at about the 31.5s once we've really started to crack onto it. Dipping under 30 seconds for the second sector will be about the norm, and then you'll get a 26 to 27 second third sector, I would imagine, as the battle continues on. Maciej Mlenek sets the benchmark, a 1:28.099, which is immediately eclipsed, by the way, by Chris Shepherd in the Stax Racing number 37. He gets the next best lap in there with a 1:28.033. Good start to the meeting so far from Chris Shepherd, and that's definitely going to give us a good indication as to just how close to the mark he is going to be. I think a lot of people are hoping that this is the weekend he really starts to push forward. He's got himself some absolutely incredible talent to race against this time, but whether or not he is going to be in a position to battle for the win, we will just have to keep an eye on it. Basically, he's working very hard indeed as drivers continue to push the boat out. Now, Maciej Mlenek is already pushing on in terms of his first lap. Second lap is already purple in the first sector. Bruno Sousa Ferreira going second in the, going third, I should say, in the time sheets. 9/10 of a second off the pace of Shepherd and Mlenek. It's going to be a little bit of a while before they start to establish their positions, but what we're certainly going to see is that these drivers will start to tighten up with each other and close up the field. It's certainly not going to start in the same way as it currently is. There is definitely going to be a little bit more to do in the prevailing parts of the session. Chris Shepherd is still the fastest on a 1:28.033, but that's only 67 thousandths of a second faster, I should point out, than Maciej Mlenek, who has already set a subpar time by his standards, as Chris Shepherd goes even faster and extends the gap to 0.2 of a second over Maciej Mlenek. which is pretty strong, it has to be said, in this early stage of the session. So Chris Shepherd wanting to get on with things very, very early on to see if he can put one over on the man himself out in front, Maciej Linek. And to be fair, it would be particularly interesting if he manages to get a victory here this weekend at the Hungaroring. He's certainly got a good car underneath him. The team have been very, very strong of late. So we'll see exactly what kind of challenge we get from him as the battle commences. So as we bring ourselves into the mix of a great battle, we should hopefully be able to have a little bit more fun around the circuit. But now we're having a slight issue, unfortunately, at this point. I do apologise. For some reason or other, I'm not able to get a screen up in front of me. I've got my timing screen, no problem at all. And unfortunately, I'm struggling to see the car. So I will do my best to bring that up whenever is humanly possible. So at this point, I'm going to need to take a pause, unfortunately. We'll continue keeping an eye on the qualifying session. Do stay with us. When we come back, we will get ourselves underway for the first of the two races. Apologies, folks. We will return as soon as we humanly possibly can. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, my apologies for that brief break in transmission. Just a slight hiccup there on the old technical side of things, but we have now got things repaired once again. In the time when I have actually been paused, we have just spotted the fact that Maciej Mlinek in the Scuderia Brasilia, which has been leading the championship pretty much since the off, is back in front, although Chris Shepherd is trying to get that gap down. But how startling is this? Mlinek and Shepherd are 0.4 of a second clear of Roy Schroten. 0.4 of a second. That is quite a staggering gap, even around the Hungaroring circuit, which is only 2.7 miles in length, don't forget. So it's clear that Mlinek and Shepherd have definitely got their cars hooked up a lot better than anybody else. So what can we tell you heading into this one? Well, there's a few faces that you might not be familiar with, or certainly need a bit of a reminder of coming into this meeting, because there are a few faces that are either returning or new. Conrad Barr is in at MDR Motorsport this weekend. He's currently inside the top 10, just ahead of Menno Klont in the second of the Stax Racing cars alongside Chris Shepherd. Noah Kutra is now in the Royal Blue Racing car, number 51. So Noah Kutra is in the car this time. Rauno Muru has taken up the mantle at the TTF Racing Machine. In 20th position he currently sits. Who else is relatively new in terms of driving streaks? Nobody else I think I can see. So, well, Daniele Brambilla is in the GPVWC Academy car. We tend to see him more chatting away on the stream rather than actually competing, but it's good to see that Daniele Brambilla has decided to take up the mantle of race driver in the Formula Challenge, having been a watcher of the series from time to time. He has now said, you know what, this is pretty good fun, I'm going to give it a go. So well done to him for doing so, and he is there in the Academy car. I hear rumours of a Ginetta Junior driver in the British series who is looking to make his debut in the championship as well, by the way, in the next coming weeks. The name Luke Browning is definitely one you need to keep an ear out for. He's already started his testing sequences and sessions, so maybe hopefully in time for the next round of the championship you may well see another young British charge, just 15 years of age, making his way onto the starting grid. So that'll be an interesting one. We'll try and keep you up to date with all of the happenings of that one. We're in the final couple of minutes of the qualifying session. Maciej Mlinek still top, looking to maintain that position, but it is going to be interesting to see if he can hang on to it. Chris Shepherd is only now 0.07 of a second off his best time, so there's still plenty of opportunities as Matthew Marquardt drops it midway round the lap, trying to find that little bit of extra time. He hasn't made it, as you can probably tell. Chris Shepherd, meanwhile, is trying to find a bit more speed. Now, Roy Schroten has got himself the best final sector. He goes purple in the third sector and goes just 0.045 of a second slower than Chris Shepherd, which is, of course, only 0.052 slower than Mlinek, because there's only 0.07 of a second between the two men on the front row. Chris Shepherd really pushing hard in the Stax Racing car. Roy Schroten is only a few car lengths behind him on the road and has been able to find a lot of time. Oh, Roy Schroten has gone off the circuit on the way through. That is turn 5. He's gone off there. So he manages to bring the car to a stop before he strikes anything, but he's definitely under some pressure as Maciej Mlinek is about to start his final qualifying lap, because he's going to come across the line with about 1 minute and 15 seconds to go. And as a result of that, he'll only have one more time lap. Chris Shepherd, likewise, just coming into the final couple of turns a little bit further back behind him. Matthew Marquardt has decided that 5th position is the best he can get and has pitted in. So what is the order at present? Well, I can tell you it's Maciej Mlinek in front of Chris Shepherd from Roy Schroten and Bastian Paesler. Matthew Marquardt and Mike Quinter rounding out the top 6 for the moment, with Terence Grech, Clemens Velt, Bruno Sousa Ferreira and Conrad Barr. Then it's Menno Klont and the new boy Daniele Brambilla in 12th position in the Academy car. That's good news. Roy Mazil in 13th ahead of Philip Koenig. The first of the downforce drivers, Jaden Wright, alongside the Royal Blue Man, Noah Kutra, David Yunt and Paul Joseph. Mark Breslin in the second of the two mighty fourth cars. They are 18th and 19th at the moment, those two. Yes, that is right. And then 20th is Rauno Muru from Matthew Klipp, Nicholas Dimitris, Ryan Nash, Mike Schroten, Caspar Onwin, Thomas Andrea Mariosa, Brett Metcalf, Johan Lindberg, Wesley Stefano and Lorenzo De Coutils. The last of those three drivers, Lindberg, Stefano and De Coutils, have not actually set lap times. But here is Maciej Mlinek. Personal best in the second sector, so he might be able to eke out a bit of a gap to Chris Shepherd. Where is Shepherd? He has decided he can't go any faster, so he's not going to get an improvement. Neither is Roy Schroeter. Maciej Minek doesn't need to be getting an improvement on this final lap, but he's going to anyway, just to try and get that psychological edge. Can he extend his advantage? No, he can't. Oh, no, he does. By a 1:27.509 he gets right at the bitter end. My goodness. Stretches out the advantage to 0.269. So that sends a psychological shockwave through the field there, that very last lap of the session. And Philip Koenig has set a pretty quick lap as his very last lap as well. His personal best to go into 6th position in the session. So that drops Mike Quint and Terence Grech down a position each. So really impressive final times in there from those last couple of drivers. We're just seeing a few more drivers put their final qualifying laps in there as well. So we have Jaden Wright and David Junt out on the circuit, although Junt has just dropped it on what was set to be his final qualifying lap. Rauno Muru is coming through. So too is his rival there across the line. Rauno Muru does not improve upon his best position, but he does get a 1:30.589. Nicholas Dimitris is just going to come through and set his final lap time. Is it any better? Yes, it is. It moves him up into 18th position, Nicholas Dimitris. So he actually displaces Joseph Breslin and Muru. Dimitris was previously in 21st, so he's made quite a big jump there. David Junt has come across the line, and his session is over. So that is the order. Maciej Minek from Chris Shepherd, Roy Schroeter, Bastian Paisler, Matthew Marquardt and Philip Koenig, Mike Quint and Terence Grech, Clemens Wilt and Bruno Sousa Ferreira rounding out the top 10 from Conrad Barr and Menno Klont, Daniele Brambilla and Roy Vasil, Jaden Wright and Noah Kuchar, David Junt and Nicholas Dimitris, Paul Joseph and Mark Breslin. Then the last 10 are Rauno Muru, Matthew Klipp, Thomas Andrea Mariosa, Ryan Nash, Mike Schroeter, Casper Onwin, Brett Metcalf, Johan Lindberg, Wesley Stefano, and Lorenzo De Coitis. So a really interesting battle there. Now, interestingly, Rauno Muru has come onto the chat and has made an apology to Johan Lindberg. Now, am I right in thinking that Johan Lindberg was supposedly retiring from the sport? I'm fairly certain he was last time out, wasn't he? So Johan Lindberg writes on the chat, it's hard to set a lap time when you get crashed outside the fence. So Matthew Allington writes, YTF1 is the new Woods. Hashtag curse. That's a terrifying thought, isn't it? I really hope not. But yes, Johan Lindberg will start yet another race from the back end of the grid with Wesley Stefano and Lorenzo De Coitis also not setting a lap time at the end of the session there. So Johan Lindberg once again opting to potentially retire. I don't know, maybe, from this particular Formula Challenge season. He's already done it once. Maybe he will reconsider if he has a good race in the bag. But nothing like Azerbaijan, folks. Let's have a decent race from the Formula Challenge guys. And obviously we know that the driving standards here is way better than that. So the drivers are now just getting themselves ready for their morning warm-up session. It's a good opportunity, actually, to talk you through some of the season thus far, because we are about to get to the halfway stage of the season. For those who are just tuning in for the first time, it would be ideal to be able to show you a little bit about what is actually going on around the circuit. So we've got ourselves a really interesting start to the season in the Formula Challenge Championship. Maciej Minek leads the way after 16 races thus far, 2 races in each meeting, of course. And with 6 wins out of the 16 races so far, Maciej Minek has been incredibly strong. He has actually won a race on all but 2 of the weekends this year. He was on the podium at Monaco, and he was a 4th position at the Red Bull Ring, and that's why he leads the championship, because he's been able to keep his consistency pretty much solid throughout. Now, the 2 GPVWC Academy drivers, let's try and keep an eye on them in this race. One of them is Daniele Brambilla, and the other one is slightly further up the grid from him. That is, no, sorry, I thought it was Conrad Barr, but no, Conrad Barr is actually competing in the NDR Motorsport car. So the other GPVWC Academy driver, one of which is Daniele Brambilla, the other one is Ryan Nash, in this particular car for this meeting. So interesting to see what Ryan can do in the GPVWC car. Daniele Brambilla is looking for it. So the drivers are just getting themselves ready. Now, I'm trying to see if there are any drivers who have been given any penalties coming into this one. I'm not sure if there are. So we'll double check as the drivers come through on their warm-ups. Obviously, this is just a final opportunity for drivers to get an understanding of their cars. For Chris Shepherd in particular, this is a chance to see if he can out-sprint Maciej Minek down to the first corner. And if he can, then we really have got a race on our hands. But yes, 6 wins so far this year from Maciej Minek, just 2 from Roy Schroeten, but a string of podium finishes, 2 seconds, 2 thirds, and many point scoring positions as well for Roy Schroeten ensures that he is second in the championship, 58 points back from Maciej Minek. But if he has a howler and Schroeten has 2 strong races, then there is a genuine chance that that gap will reduce. Chris Shepherd has won twice, second race at Monaco and first race at Canada, as well as a string of other points finishes. David Yont has yet to win this year, but 3 second places and a third at Russia mean that he is on the same amount of points as Chris Shepherd. Mike Quint has won twice this year. Despite missing the Red Bull Ring, he is 5th in the driver's standings after a win at Sochi and a win... 3 wins this year. My apologies for Mike Quint. A win at the first race in Sochi, the first race in Monaco, and the second race last time out at Silverstone. One of the races of the year for the Formula Challenge. I really enjoyed that one 2 weeks ago to the day. Menno Clont has yet to win a race in the Formula Challenge season in 2017, but he has been on the podium 3 times at China, in Spain, and at Silverstone in the first race last time out as well. James Early has been strongly consistent with a couple of second places at Barcelona and the Red Bull Ring, and that's why he is 7th in the points. 5 points clear of the man who's missed 3 rounds of the championship, Liam de Waal. I don't think he's here this weekend either at the Hungrary. So Liam de Waal, who was a race winner earlier in the year in his first weekend at Shanghai, he won the second race, which proved that he has obviously got the pace if he did a full campaign, which he isn't. Roy Bazil is tied with him in the point standings after his 3rd position finish in the second race at Monaco. Patrick Gerber has been on the podium this year as well. He is 10th in the standings after his 3rd position finish at Sochi. A podium for Terence Grech in 11th position in the championship standings as well. And don't forget that race victory in the second race at Barcelona for Matthew Marquardt. 12th position in the standings, but he's had a lot of DNFs this year. He would be higher up in the point standings were it not for those. Paul Joseph has been consistently finishing in the points for all but 3 of the races this year, hence why he's 13th in the point standings. Well, Johan Lindberg has had 3 retirements in a row, and he did say last time out at Silverstone that he was retiring. But I do notice that Johan Lindberg will start 26th on the starting grid here. Now, a couple of drivers are going to be given some starting penalties. One of those is Casper Onwin. Another one of those is Matthew Klipp. So Matthew Klipp is being given I think a 5 position grid penalty. It looks as though Casper Onwin has received a similar penalty, although I don't think it's quite as harsh. So drivers are now being positioned into positions. Daniele Brambilla, GPVWC Academy driver, just asking, can we use launch control? Certainly can, mate. I'm going to be very interested to see what you can do with it too. Matthew Allington writes, this will be nothing like Azerbaijan. It might be worse, though. Oh, don't be so harsh on the Formula Challenge drivers. Don't be so harsh at all. DF Racing 1, though, does comment on the fact that this is Nicholas Dimitris' best qualifying of the season. Yes, it is, actually. Nicholas Dimitris did a cracking job in the qualifying session just then with his final qualifying lap. That moves into 17th position on the starting grid. Bastian Paisler writes, hopefully no Monaco 2.0 today. Yeah, that was a little bit interesting, wasn't it? So hopefully there's not going to be any chaos along the likes of Monaco. If you don't know what we're talking about, then please do go back after the racing tonight and watch it. We are about to put all of the races from the GPVWC 2017 season and a special collection that was put together for me in the past by James Kirk of the very best bits of GPVWC history will be put together on the Downforce Racing page. You can see the Downforce logos at the side of the circuit. The website for that, by the way, is downforceracing.uk, which is a sort of motorsport hub for anybody in Great Britain and further afield who wants to know more about British motorsport and motor racing in general. Right, so Chris Shepherd seems to have got himself a good setup, we hope, as he gets himself ready. I had forgotten, of course, that DF Racing 1 on YouTube refers to the reigning Super League champion, of course, David Fidek. So apologies to David for referring to him as DF Racing 1. I'm very well aware of the fact now that that is the man who is king of the hill in the Super League in 2017 and fighting to get back there. You'll find out how he gets on in his battle with Rudy van Buren on Thursday night here at the Hungrary with myself and Josh Anderson in the commentary box. Of course, it will be the simnews.tv boys of Ben Willis and Kasper Konadijic tomorrow, who will take you through the Super Cup as Jeff Fournier joins the field. Good evening, Jeff. Just watching along on the YouTube feed. If you are watching along, do please contribute and do join the fun and chat away. I'll try and pick up on any significant messages from the drivers. But now it's time to have a go on the rolling lap. So the cars are just getting themselves neatly into position on the starting grid. Roy Schroeten is lining up. Now, who's got a grid penalty? That looks to me like Chris Shepherd has a grid penalty, actually. So Chris Shepherd is demoted down to, if my mathematics are correct, Chris Shepherd is down to 6th position on the starting grid. Yes, so lining up on the front row of the grid, but is demoted to 6th place. That means that Roy Schroeten is going to take a front row position. Now, Matthew Allington has given me some information. Thank you, Matthew. Marquardt has grid penalties from Silverstone, which is why Matthew Marquardt now finds himself 23rd on the starting grid. So it'll be interesting to see how he moves his way through the field. And also Johan Lindberg, who did retire at the last race of the championship at Silverstone, has decided to have a crack at this race to test out new settings and to try to solve his recurring technical issues. If it works, then maybe we haven't heard the last of Johan Lindberg yet. And everybody watching, both live and subsequently, is crossing their fingers in the hope that it isn't his last meeting. Let's talk you through the grid then of 30 drivers. Maciej Minek, championship leader in the Scuderia Basilia, lines up on pole position. Alongside him, his closest rival in the championship, Roy Schroeten in the Thunderdog. 3rd position, it's the Holland Racing Team driver of Bastian Paesler. He runs up on the 2nd row of the grid alongside Philip Koenig in the MDR Motorsport car. Keep an eye on him. He's a dark horse for this one for me. Mike Quint, the 2nd Scuderia Basilia car, 5th position on the starting grid. Chris Shepherd, incredibly quick in qualifying, and now demoted to the 3rd row of the grid in 6th place with a grid penalty. But can he get back up into the top 3? Terence Grech in the TR Blue-Voss Motorsports car in 7th position on the starting grid. Alongside him on row 4 is the Arrow International Racing driver Clemens Wild. Rounding out the top 10, Bruno Souza Ferreira in the Bastvik Grand Prix car, in front of the MDR Motorsport new boy Conrad Barr to round out the top 10. Menno Klont in the Stax Racing car lines up in 11th position alongside the first of the GPVWC Academy new boys for this weekend, Daniele Brambilla. 13th is the TR Blue-Voss Motorsport car of Roy Vizil. Alongside him is the number 31 Downforce Racing car of the Australian Jaden Wright. Royal Blue Racing car number 51 is Noah Kutra in 15th on the starting grid alongside another of the Red Arrows, that is David Junt. His teammate Nicholas Dimitris lines up 17th on the grid, his best qualifying start position of the year. Alongside him is the mighty 4th racer Paul Joseph, and his teammate Mark Bresnan will line up in 19th position. Let's see how the Bonnie Scots do, with Rano Muro rounding out the top 20 in the TTF racing car. The 2nd Downforce driver, Thomas Andrea Maliosa, lines up 21st alongside the 2nd GPVWC Academy driver in car number 101, Ryan Nash. Matthew Marquardt will have to fight his way through from 23rd on the starting grid in the YTF1 machine. Alongside him is the 2nd Thunderdog of Mike Schroeten, with Roy Schroeten, of course, on the front row of the grid. Brett Metcalf lines up 25th in the 2nd of the TTF racing cars. Johan Lindberg, hopefully not in his last race, in 26th position in the YTF1 car, with Matthew Clipp in 27th for Royal Blue Racing. In 28th is Casper Onwin in the Arrow International car. Wesley Stefano in the EJ Engineering car lines up 29th. And we may well get Lorenzo De Cuitis in that particular car, lining up in 30th position, although I notice that he is despicable by his absence. So let's see who's going to get the start here at the Hungaroring. The lights are on. Let's race at the Hungaroring. Cracking start from Roy Schroeten. He might just be able to get the jump on Maciej Minek as they run to the first corner, but Linek drops the throttle, and he's got great grip on the outside. So it's now going to be about defense for Roy Schroeten. Bastian Paesler trying to come around the outside. It's all clean in the first corner from the first few cars as everybody else tries to slot through. We'll just see, has everybody got through A-OK? Yes, it's a clean start through turn 1 as everybody has kept it on the island. Maciej Minek is still there in position. Chris Shepherd trying to move up positions, but he's struggling. Oh, Shepherd's lost it! Shepard's lost it, trying to make progress through the field, and Shepard has lost the car. He now spins in the front of the field, and he's collected there by Kutra. Noah Kutra collects him. I was wondering if everybody was going to get through. Menno Klon has spun his car as well. What a disaster. Wesley Stefano trying to get away from the battles as well. Looks as though several drivers have just about dodged the carnage, but it's a really messy start as Jaden Wright makes a move on the inside of the chicane on Daniele Brambilla, and the Australian moves up into 14th position, but at the front it's Maciej Mlinek who leads from Schroeter, Paisler, Quint, Grech, Barr, Wilt, Sousa Ferreira, Koenig and Vasil. And it looks like we've got enough mid-corner. That was Mike Quint just going a little bit wide, trying to see who else has gone further back. I think we're just about through the worst of the carnage now as, oh, whoops, Matthew Marquardt goes a little bit wide. Brambilla still battling out with Jaden Wright on the opening couple of laps of the race as everybody picks their way through. Several damaged cars, though. I would not be surprised if we see Chris Shepard into the pits. He's in 25th, although looking at his car, it's not essentially that badly damaged. Menno Klontz isn't either by the look of it. Noah Kutra's definitely is, as is Wesley Stefano's. So both of them will be into the pits. But Maciej Mlinek is already into the second lap of 18 and is pulling out in front of Roy Schroeter, Bastian Paisler and Mike Quint. As Clemens Wild makes the move for 6th position. And that's a little bit of a moment for Terence Grech. Grech has dropped it on the exit of turn 1. So he now drops behind Johan Lindberg. Lindberg is in 12th position. How about that? Matthew Allington just writing there. Johan, a massive beneficiary for once, up into the points as Marquardt took to the gravel, managing to stay clear of more drama. But what about that for Johan Lindberg? Up into 12th position as in front of him, Mark Breslin pushing the boat out a little bit. So several drivers in a much better position than they were starting from. Mark Breslin in the mighty 4th car is up into 11th position. Johan Lindberg is 12th. Jaden Wright in the downforce car up to 13th from Daniele Brambilla. Nicholas Demetrius is having a good race as well, up to 15th position. Grech, Muru, Mark Schroeter. Oh, Schroeter and Muru have come together. Schroeter and Muru come together there, and Schroeter tries to rejoin the circuit right in front of Casper Onwin, and that was a bit dangerous. Chris Shepard is in that mix as well. Schroeter runs wide, and Chris Shepard gets through. Terence Grech is going backwards. I have a feeling that Terence Grech has got a major problem with the car as he drops further and further back. Oh, yes, he's lost his front wing, so that's obviously in the damage he even sustained earlier on. So he's now making his way back to the pits. But both Chris Shepard and Menno Klont are trying to work their way through the field. In there with Thomas Andrea Mariosa in the second of the downforce cars. But Mlinek leads. Schroeter second. Bastian Paisler's under pressure from Mike Quint, with Conrad Barr in a very strong 5th position from Clemens Wild, Philip Koenig, Roy Vasil, David Junt and Mark Breslin in 10th position now from Johan Lindberg in 11th. So a cracking start to proceedings here at the Hungaroring. Mlinek still trying to get away from Roy Schroeter. The gap steady at 1.3, but the fastest lap of the race from Roy Schroeter in the Thunderdog. So maybe there's a chance for him as Mike Quint gets very close to the back of Bastian Paisler's Holland Racing Team car. Is there a chance into the chicane? No, Mike Quint is not going to chuck it up the inside in a daring do maneuver. He's going to brave it out. Meanwhile, there's a great tussle for 6th position. Philip Koenig, Clemens Wild and Roy Vasil, with David Junt now trying to join the party. An amazing scrap between these four as Vasil now tucks into the back of Clemens Wild. David Junt still there in 9th position. Breslin 10th. Lindberg 11th from Sousa Ferreira, Jaden Wright, Daniele Brambilla and Nicholas Demetrius. Those are your point scorers at the moment. So very positive for Brambilla at the moment as Wesley Stefano has been into the pits and is out of it again. So the only non-runner in the field is Lorenzo De Cuitis, who didn't actually set a lap time in quali, so I'm not sure if he's actually going to take up the grid at all. Oh, no, Lorenzo De Cuitis is sitting in the pits. I wonder if he missed qualifying and missed the start of the race, so he'll have to join in for the second race of the weekend. Now, Mlinek is in front of Roy Schroeter to the tune of 1.6 seconds. He's got himself a purple first sector there, Maciej Mlinek. Roy Schroeter in second position trying to chase him down. So it is a really good run so far from them. But Johan Lindberg in particular, one of the main beneficiaries from that. A cracking start from Conrad Barr, dodging the carnage as Chris Shepard went for the spin. Philip Koenig up into 6th position now as well. Clemens Wild is falling into the clutches of the Vasil, Junt and Breslin squabble. Here comes Vasil up the inside of Wild. He thinks better of it. But Roy Vasil really starting to get onto the back of Clemens Wild as he looks for a way to get past. But Mike Quint in 4th position now. All over the back of Bastian Paisler with the two drivers of Conrad Barr and Philip Koenig in their machines. battling away very nicely indeed there for position, the MDR cars, as Clemens Wild has now gone down to 9th position. Brazil is through, Junt is through, Clemens Wild goes wide again. He's really struggling through the twisty section of the course here as Mark Breslin is now closing up on him. Oh, big run off the circuit for Johan Lindberg. He manages to bring the car back onto the circuit without losing a place or time. But Clemens Wild is really struggling in these conditions. Mark Breslin putting him under a massive pressure. Johan Lindberg using this opportunity to close up as well. I'm kind of hoping this puts the lead back in Lindberg's pencil here. He's an absolutely cracking racing driver, and it would be a shame to lose him from the ranks. So hopefully a weekend like this will definitely give him the motivation to keep on plugging on. So up into the points now has come Matthew Marquardt. He has worked his way past Nicholas Dimitris to get into 15th position. Outside the points, we've got Dimitris, Joseph, Matthew Klipp, Chris Shepherd up to 19th, Menno Klont up to 20th ahead of Casper Onwin. Then it's Andrea Mariosa, Muru, Metcalf, Mike Schroeten and Terence Grech, with Noah Kutra in 27th position ahead of Wesley Stefano and the Academy driver Ryan Nash, who's not had the greatest of races, I'm afraid to say. Philip Koenig sets a personal best lap on the last time around and is trying to close up on his teammate Conrad Barr in 5th position. So there's plenty of good tussles around the circuit and plenty of good battles to watch. So Mlinek is now 2.5 ahead of Roy Schroeten. Bastian Paisler still unable to shake off Mike Quint, who is really battling for position at the moment. Conrad Barr in 5th from Koenig in 6th. Brazil 7th has got to try and shake off David Junt. 9th place Clemens Wild in front of the Breslin and Lindberg squabble, which is now towing Bruno Sousa Ferreira along for the ride. And if they're not careful, Jaden Wright's going to join in. But this is a real problem for Clemens Wild. Lindberg is going to try and get up the inside of Breslin. Here comes Lindberg. He thinks better of it. Breslin defends to the inside of the apex as Mike Quint has actually overshot. I'm just looking at a replay. Mike Quint has overshot, trying to get on terms with Bastian Paisler. And that was picked up by the feed before it was picked up by me, I'm afraid. So apologies I didn't spot that. But Maciej Linek in front of Roy Schroeten, Bastian Paisler and Mike Quint, who stays in 4th position despite dropping a couple of car lengths in the manoeuvre. So this is the squabble we're now watching again. Clemens Wild, Mark Breslin, Johan Lindberg and Bruno Sousa Ferreira. Breslin has a look to Wild, but he's not close enough to throw it up the inside. Wild just hangs on to that 9th position for the moment, but you do get the sense that he's starting to struggle a little bit. Breslin tries again to come up the inside into turn 2. Wild travels a little bit further around the apex than he would like to, manages to get the car tucked in neatly for turn 3 and down the short drop. It's really steep, this section of the circuit. You don't really appreciate how tough it is unless you walk around it, which I did 2 years ago. It's really tough circuit, this, in terms of the undulation changes and the sudden change of camber and crest. It's very steep in certain parts of the circuit and you just don't get the appreciation for it. Television never really gives you that sense. Whereas here, you can really get to that. He's starting to try and reel him in again. Roy Schroeten, by the way, has started to reel in Maciej Linek. So Maciej Linek has actually managed to lose a bit of time there. I'm not entirely sure how that happened, but Maciej Linek has lost a bit of time. The gap is down to 1.5 seconds all of a sudden. So Mlinek leads from Schroeten. Bastian Paisler is still 2nd position. Mike Quint is 4th. Paisler is 3rd position, I should say. Quint is 4th from Conrad Barr, Philip Koenig, Vasil and Junt still battling away with Wilt hanging on in front of Mark Breslin and Johan Lindberg. So still some good battles. Apparently there are a couple of hiccups with the stream at the moment. We're trying to bring back the pictures as soon as we possibly can. But for the moment, it's a radio broadcast, I'm afraid. Maciej Linek, Roy Schroeten, Bastian Paisler, Mike Quint, Conrad Barr, Koenig, Vasil, Junt, Wilt and Breslin. Breslin has dropped back a little bit now off the back of Clemens Wild as Johan Lindberg sizes him up going into turn 5, that long sweeping right-hander where Fernando Alonso so famously took Michael Schumacher in the wet in 2006. Into the chicane then, turns 7 and 8. Plenty of clean racing, I have to say, from the drivers in Formula Challenge this time. We've had a couple of weekends where things have been a little bit higgledy-piggledy all over the place. Chris Shepherd now makes the move up the inside of Nicholas Dimitris in the chicane, and he's up in the 16th place. Good work from Shepherd to move up several places now. Menno Klont is not finding it so easy to get his way through the traffic. I wonder if that's because he's got a little bit more damage to his car. Yes, he does. He's actually missing the left front wing end plate on his car, so he may well be finding traction off the turns a little bit harder to achieve than Chris Shepherd is at the moment, who somehow, despite spinning right in front of the field, was able to dodge most of the damage to his car. Now, Maciej Minek, in comparison to Roy Schroeter in terms of lap times, there is no comparison. In fact, the gap is about 0.02 of a second as they go through the last lap. So Maciej Minek has the track advantage, but Roy Schroeter is his equal. Absolutely brilliantly at the moment. Maciej Minek, 1.7 seconds ahead of Roy Schroeter. And they continue to charge away from the rest of the field. Bastian Paisley still there in third position. Mike Quint is about a second and a half back now. Now, Conrad Barr is falling into the clutches of his teammate, Philip Koenig. Now, I wonder if the MDR Motorsport team are going to play some tactics here and suggest maybe to Conrad, well, Philip is going faster than you, and he is, to be fair. Conrad Barr's last lap was a 1:29.7. His best lap is a 1:29.7 compared to Koenig on a 1:29.5. Last time out, Barr did a 1:30.7 compared to Koenig's 1:30.4. They may decide to switch these two over if there's a chance that Koenig can catch up to Mike Quint, because it's only lap 8 out of 18. There is time for Koenig to start thinking about maybe a top 4, especially if Mike Quint has another moment. So this is a difficult situation for the MDR Motorsport team to be in, but hopefully they will be in a situation where they can make a decision about that pretty quickly. So the feed has come back. Now, Jeff Fournier has been looking at the replay. And it's Philip Koenig who actually went wide and pushed Shepard off the circuit on lap 1. I did see Shepard going wide at the second corner, so if it was a Koenig incident that instigated that, then maybe, just maybe, there is going to be an investigation into that one that could result in a penalty. Now, Ryan Nash in the GPVWC Academy car has gone off the road and has got some big damage, I'm afraid to say. He's at the penultimate corner trying to bring the car back to the pits. Well, this is the way to learn. But Ryan Nash has learnt the hard way, I'm afraid to say, as he brings the car into the pits. Big shot for him. And that means that he will now, well, that's a big baptism of fire for Ryan Nash as he brings the car back into the pit lane. Now, who else is having a difficult race? Terence Grech has got the car back up to speed after his little manoeuvre. Noah Kuchera is now back on the speed again, having repaired his car. Wesley Stefano likewise. Mike Schroeter in the wars. Rauno Muro in there as well. Now, Jeff Fournier makes the point I was just about to. Thank you for that, Jeff. He says, I wonder what the tyre degradation is going to be like over the next 2 to 3 laps, particularly from the leaders, because Minek and Schroeter are matching each other for pace. So in terms of 1 lap speed, they are about equal with each other at the moment. Just looking at the best times from these two. Actually, Roy Schroeter is slightly faster than Maciej Minek in their best lap by 0.04 of a second. So the advantage is actually with Roy Schroeter. And in terms of sector times, Roy Schroeter is going faster than Maciej Minek consistently now. Minek did a 1:29.6 on the last lap. Roy Schroeter a 1:29.3, so he's catching him. Now, Bastian Paisley is still there in third position, but Mike Quint has been looking after the tyres very well indeed, and is now closed right up on the back of the Holland Racing Team driver. So Bastian Paisley is really going to have to work hard for this one. He's going to sweat his way through, down the drop, out of turn 3, up through the gears. Mike Quint still hassling him. What's the battle like for Roy Bazil and David Junt? It's as it was. Still some pressure. Clemens Wilt seems to have finally shaken off the Breslin Lindbergh squabble. Although Johan Lindbergh is trying to get himself into the top 10. Wouldn't it be amazing if Lindbergh could get himself a decent finishing position, and then wherever he finishes is the pole position grid draw? Because that would be an amazing way for Johan to change his mind. Do you know what? I like Formula Challenge after all. So he's going to have to think about that one. David Junt and Clemens Wilt both set personal best laps last time around. Junt is 17 seconds off the leader. Clemens Wilt is 20.3 away. But Johan Lindbergh is definitely giving some pressure now, as Matthew Marquardt seems to have fallen behind Jaden Wright. Whoops, Jaden Wright has gone off the circuit on the exit of the chicane. So Wright versus Marquardt may have a few chapters left to tell, as Chris Shepard is having to find his way back past Nicholas Dimitris. So it looks as though Shepard's gone off the road somewhere. Dimitris is passed by him once again. They're all running wide there on the right-hander in the midsection of the circuit. Dimitris has now got Menno Klont underneath him, trying to come through. Big slide from Nicholas Dimitris, as Brett Metcalf now makes his move on the inside of Terence Grech a bit further back as well. So there's a few choice overtaking moves. Maciej Minek has had a really good last lap and has pulled out the gap to him and Roy Schroeter into 2.1 seconds once again. Bastian Paisley, though, has got Mike Quint all over the back of him, so there could be a challenge for that third position. Now, Jeff Fournier makes another good observation there. Lindbergh is suffering a lot from the dirty air. Now, this battle with Chris Shepard and Nicholas Dimitris is absolutely cracking, because Dimitris is trying to show a candle to Well, it's Menno Klont, actually, sorry. But he defended really well indeed there from Menno Klont before he finally let him go. So that was a really interesting battle for... Demetrius to get himself involved with here, because he'll improve a lot from that one. Matthew Allington makes the point that Marquardt went off at the exit of turn 4, which is why he ended up behind Jaden Wright, although now he is trying to get back on terms with him. He's right underneath him, I should point out. So Lindberg in 10th position now, having got past Mark Breslin. I didn't see how that happened. I'd like to see that one again, though. It's happened out of my visions, unfortunately. So maybe Matthew Allington, who is clearly watching the Lindberg squabble, maybe he can tell us how that happened. I missed it, unfortunately. But Lindberg is now into P10, just in behind Clemens Wild and chasing him down big style. Somebody has given Johan Lindberg a wake-up call. He is absolutely on it now. I'm just watching back to see what happened. It was earlier on in the lap, so we missed it on the stream, unfortunately, as well. So Lindberg now runs 10th position behind Clemens Wild. Roy Vazil has got David Junt right underneath him. Junt is trying to use the slipstream. Vazil right up against the pit wall to stop him coming through. Junt nearly misses his braking point altogether. The back of Roy Vazil. Goodness me, that was incredibly tight. Somehow David Junt avoids going square into the back of Roy Vazil. But that was incredibly close as he misses his braking point altogether. Couple of millimeters more, and that would have been that. Now, I wonder if Roy Schroeten has pushed his tyres a little bit too much, because now Roy Schroeten has dropped to 3.3 seconds back, as back through into 14th position has gone Matthew Marquardt. He has made the move on Jaden Wright. It almost looked as if Jaden Wright just let him go there on the main straight. I wonder if he got a bad exit from the final corner, and that's how the move was done. Koenig is battling away with his teammate. And a big slide there from Philip Koenig as he gets onto the back of his teammate Conrad Barr. As if to say, come on, you're holding me up. Let's just get on with this now. There was a yellow flag further back. It was for Nicholas Demetrius, I think, as Koenig now makes the move up the inside of Barr and gets through. That was getting silly, so thank goodness they've sorted it out. But yes, Nicholas Demetrius has now fallen back, I'm afraid, to 19th position. So a bit of a mistake there for him. I think that's what the yellow flags were for earlier on. Meanwhile, Bastian Paisley has been trying to drop Mike Quint once again. Now, Maciej Minek has made a mistake somewhere on that last lap, because Roy Schroeten has dropped the gap down once again to 2.5 seconds. Paisley third from Quint, Koenig, Barr, Vazil, Junt. Lindberg now 9th, by the way. And Mark Breslin in 10th, because they both managed to get past Clemens Wild recently. So Wild is down in 11th position now from Bruno Sousa Ferreira, Daniele Brambilla, Matthew Marquardt, and Chris Shepherd has now made his way into 15th position. Menno Klont has made his way into 16th as the leading downforce driver, Jaden Wright, has slipped down into 17th position. They did say, both those drivers, that they were going to struggle in terms of their pace for this one. Neither of them could get a decent setup together. Philip Koenig still runs 5th in front of his teammate Conrad Barr as they try to get away. David Junt has once again caught onto the back of Roy Vazil. So he's going to try and make that move stick if he can try and get away through. Johan Lindberg is absolutely dropping Mark Breslin. He's got to be crossing everything he possesses. His fingers, his toes, his kneecaps, his feet, anything that the grid draw next time is 9th, or effectively wherever he finishes the race. That would be absolutely incredible. As he runs wide there through the right-hander in the mid-section of the lap. Mark Breslin in 10th from Wild, Sousa Ferreira, Brambilla, now with Matthew Marquardt all over the back of him. This will be an interesting test for Brambilla, who runs wide. Marquardt is going to sweep right round the outside. This is going to be a convincing pass from Matthew Marquardt. He gets the job done. Brambilla is coming back at him, and Marquardt spins into the wall. Oh, no. Matthew Marquardt's race ends against the barrier. Now, surely Matthew Marquardt and the YTF1 team are going to have an investigation into that one. I don't know whether there was actually contact, because it was a very strong move from Brambilla. I want to have a look at it and see if there was. Marquardt certainly losing the car. Was there contact? I'm just looking back to see. Oh, I think there might have been the slightest nudge. Just looking at the replay again, there might have been the slightest little love tap. And on that corner, that is all it takes, I'm afraid. Matthew Marquardt struggling to get the car back to the pits to repair it. Oh, poor Matthew. He had already had a really difficult start to his race anyway, and then that just puts the kibosh on it. Now, Maciej Minek is working his way through the traffic, having just got past Wesley Stefano. And you can see as he goes through the shot there into the final right-hander before the pits. There's an awful lot of debris down there at that part of the circuit. So Jeff Fournier is actually looking at a couple of the drivers going further on and cutting turn 4. There are quite a few drivers actually who have overshot. I have a feeling that the results of this race are going to be provisional until at least 10 o'clock tonight, because there's going to be several drivers who will be under investigation for track limits, but we'll have a look at that later. Maciej Nynek into turn 1. Still looking comfortable as he goes into lap 15 out of 18. 4 laps to go and looking for his 7th win of the season. If he can just hang on to it. Now, Roy Schroeten's got to pick his moment to get through the traffic. Stefano gets right out of the way. Noah Kuchera is going to come around the outside of him as they battle for position. But Noah Kuchera is unable to make the job done. Now, what that has done is actually brought Roy Schroeten to within 2 seconds of Maciej Nynek. Now, where is Mike Quint? Mike Quint has come into the pits. He's got damage. So Mike Quint has gone off the circuit somewhere. And Mike Quint was in 4th position, don't forget. So he has dropped back and is out of the race. So Mike Quint has retired from this race. I'm not entirely sure the reason why, but that promotes Philip Koenig to 4th. Conrad Barr is up to 5th position. Junt is 6th. Lindberg is up to 7th position. How about that? Roy Vasil has dropped back into 11th position as well. I didn't see what happened to him, but I think that was recent. Yeah, he's only just gone off. So Roy Vasil, I think, finally succumbing to the pressure of David Junt as he's gone off the circuit on the exit of turn 1. I just want to see how he did it. He's been battling away with Junt. Junt gets him very close, and he's just got on the throttle too early as Roy Vasil. It's very easy to do. And unfortunately, that was his undoing. So Vasil's spinning on his own, I'm afraid to say. Sebastian Paisler is now close. Maciej Nynek has gone off somewhere. What's happened to Nynek? Nynek has gone off. So Maciej Nynek is had enough somewhere, and that's giving it to Roy Schroeten. Now, I definitely want to go back and see what happened to Maciej Nynek. Roy Vasil had spun, but what's happened to the race leader, Maciej Nynek? It looks as if he's gone off on his own. A rare mistake, or was it in traffic? I'm trying to have another look. So Maciej Nynek has had a spin and gone off the racetrack. Battling away. He's gone through the left-hander. The back end stepped out, and it just corrects itself. Maciej Nynek has binned it on his own, and that gives the victory, surely, with 3 laps to go, to Roy Schroeten. A rare driver error for Maciej Nynek. That does not happen every day. My goodness. So that is a really big moment in this race then, and potentially in this championship fight, because Roy Schroeten is likely to pick up the pieces unless he loses the back end. Hang on to it, Roy. On! Off goes Nash behind us. Ryan Nash goes right off the road behind us as well. So that's a big moment as Ryan Nash, the back end, swaps ends with the front. And that was a big one as he loses the back end, but he's not going to lose any more of that as far as I can see. Maciej Nynek, though, in 2nd position, is likely to be caught by Bastian Paisler at this rate. So Nynek in 2nd place has got some challenge from Bastian Paisler coming into the end of this race. Koenig now 4th ahead of Conrad Barr. David Junt in 6th from Lindberg, Breslin, Bilt, Sousa Ferreira, Roy Vasil in 11th place. Under some pressure now from Matthew Marquardt, who's unlapping himself. Chris Shepherd in 12th from Menno Klont, Daniele Brambilla and Matthew Klipp. So it looks as though Jaden Wright's had an off somewhere. The Australian should... Oh, yes, Jaden Wright's definitely got a problem as he lets the leaders go through. So Wright has dropped back into 24th position, even behind his teammate, Thomas Andrea Mariosa, who he was in front of for a long, long time. 2 laps to go here, and Roy Schroeten is just being careful. He's not pushing too hard. So he's working very hard indeed. Now, interestingly, we're getting some information about tyre degradation because we said that was going to be an interesting factor. Jeff Fournier writing, it's horrible how easy you can lose the back end when the tyres start to lose grip. And Mike Quint, who's retired from the race, was just saying, I had 33% front left with 4 laps to go. It's impossible, he says. So the drivers are dancing on ice effectively out there on the circuit, trying to hold on to their cars. No wonder Maciej Nynek lost the car. When the deg just drops, it is really difficult to cope with. And of course, that's the same car, don't forget. That's the same team Mike Quint is into Maciej Nynek. So if they've gone the same way on setup, it would not be too far from logic to suggest that if Mike Quint is going to struggle for grip, then so too is Maciej Nynek, depending on their setup. So it's going to be a very interesting result to this race if Roy Schroeten could just hang on for one more lap in what is turning into a really tough race for tyre degradation as the field comes through once again. So let's see how things are currently working out for the drivers as Roy Schroeter leads from Maciej Minek, Bastian Paisler in third, from Koenig, Konrad Barr, looks like Roy Vasil and Chris Shepherd are having it. Oh, sorry, Clemens Wilt has managed to get one over on Roy Vasil. Vasil is still trying to hang on to his position. Bruno Sousa Ferreira in there. Now Mark Brestin. Mark Brestin is pitting on the last lap because he's got a problem with his front wing. So Mark Brestin has lost his front nose cone. Disaster. So Mark Brestin now the latest driver in trouble. Roy Schroeter is leading the race then with 4 seconds in hand on Maciej Minek. Just hang on, Roy. Just hang on. And it will be a famous victory for him. Having picked up the pieces and kept his mentality, is going to take his 3rd win of the season and close up the gap by just 5 points. So the gap will be at 53 points deficit compared to a 58-point deficit as Roy Schroeter goes into the final 3 corners of the lap. It's going to be a really exciting end to his race, but a well-deserved one as well, as Roy Schroeter slightly faster in the race than his main rival Maciej Minek in the early stages, has continued to be so and is going to win the race. Roy Schroeter comes out of the final corner to take the checkered flag. Well, he's only just going to do it. He's only just going to do it. He drops right back in the final couple of lengths of the race and only takes the checkered flag by 0.8 of a second. I thought he had a mechanical problem there, but no, he was just keeping the car honest. But Minek is second, from Paisler in third. Philip Koenig comes home in a valiant 4th place in front of Konrad Barr. Good work from the team and well done to put Koenig in front of Barr. Junt is 6th. Lindberg in 7th. Well done, Johan Lindberg. That's more like it. That's the Johan Lindberg we know and love. Bruno Sousa Ferreira is 8th, from Clemens Wilt in 9th place. A fight back for Chris Shepherd to 10th. He'll be disappointed and miserable about it, I'm afraid to say. But there isn't really a lot he can say about that. Caught up in the first corner incident. Menno Kont is 11th place in front of Roy Vasil. Matthew Klipp will come home for 3 points in 13th, ahead of Daniele Brambilla. Despite his incidents, he gets points on his debut in the Academy car. And Paul Joseph in the second of the mighty 4th cars will bring it back in 15th position. Somebody's happy about Johan Lindberg. Matthew Allington. I'm not going to repeat what he says, but I think you can guess. Points for both Stax cars, says Mr. Gerdiner. I'll take that after the first lap. Yes, indeed. Chris Shepherd and Menno Kont fight their way back to 10th and 11th positions. Grech is 16th. Demetrius is 17th from Rana Muru, Mark Brestin, Thomas Andrea Mariosa, Casper Onwin, Wesley Stefano, Noah Kutra, Jaden Wright, Matthew Marquardt down in 25th in the end, Brett Metcalf, and Ryan Nash, who does come home 3 laps adrift and in 27th position. Now, if my mathematics is correct, I think that is the most finishers we have had in a race this year. Oh no, I apologize, because you have to go all the way back to Australia, the very first race of the season where we only had 1 retirement, and that was Clemens Wilt in Australia. And that was 28 cars finishing of the 29 that started. So that just shows you how impressive the driving standards were in that one. Roy Schroeter says, a shame, Maciej, you deserve this one. But it definitely makes things a little bit more entertaining for that. Maciej Minek says, I saw my teammate disconnecting and I spun out. Yeah, so he had difficulties. And it was easy to get distracted when he saw dire problems for his teammate. And all it takes is just one minor distraction, and that's all it takes. Well, there is a second race coming up, ladies and gentlemen, and you'll get a feel for how interesting that's going to be. We'll try and give you the update as soon as possible for who will get the reverse grid pole. So the warm-up session begins then for the second race of the two here to mark the halfway point in the 2017 Formula Challenge season. If you've just joined us, Jake Sanson here in the commentary box at the Hungrary in Budapest. An absolutely fantastic performance and some absolutely brilliant battles. There's a few drivers obviously starting to have some conversations with other drivers. Roy Schroeter making a point about blue flags in a positive light. There were various drivers that he was battling with to lap back markers, and they were actually very, very positive in how they got away with things. Clemensville not so happy with Jaden Wright. Apparently he's asking him, did you ignore the blue flag for the entire last lap? So a bit of a difficulty there. I think that's something that Jaden's going to have to explain to him at some point. There's definitely several drivers. Chris Shepherd talking about his incident on the first lap. He ended up 3 wide going into turn 2 with me in the middle, so I thought better of it. I went deep. Somebody else went deep too, and we tangled. So that's how he ended up disappearing. Philip Koenig said, I thought better of it and dive bombed 3 guys. Thought better of it and dive bombed 3 guys at once, you mean? Says Philip Koenig. So he's having a go at him. But yeah, interesting. Good banter from the race and some interesting racecraft. We're just waiting for confirmation as to who is going to get the reverse grid pole because it's not come up on my screen. Yeah, reverse grid number is 11. So it's going to be Menno Klont on pole position. So Menno Klont will start the race from pole. Now, I need to figure out where that puts... Well, that puts Johan Lindberg 5th on the grid for at least. So that's really good. In fact, this could end up being a really strong race for the Stax team because their cars are going to be on the front row of the grid. They finished 10th and 11th, and it's P11 for the reverse grid pole. So it's a Stax Racing front row. So they can make amends from their previous performance. Now, what this also means, if I do my calculation, is that Menno Klont will be on pole position from Chris Shepherd. Clemens Wild and Bruno Sousa Ferreira will be 3rd and 4th. Johan Lindberg then has a real shot at a podium in this second race because he starts P5 ahead of David Junt. Konrad Barr and Philip Koenig are next. From Bastian Paisler in 9th. Maciej Mlinek is 10th ahead of Roy Schroeter in 11th. Roy Vazil will be 12th. From Matthew Click, then Yaya Brambilla, Paul Joseph, Terence Grech, Nicholas Dimitris, Rauno Muro, Preston, Andrea Mariosa, Stefano Onwin Kuchera, Jaden Wright, Matthew Marquardt, Brett Metcalf, Ryan Nash, Mike Quint, and Mike Schroeter. So it's going to be Menno Klont then that starts the race from pole position. He'll be delighted with that. And I have a feeling the F1 crew, although they'll be devastated about Matthew Marquardt's race and him having to start the race right down in the 20-somethings, it is a 5th position start, a 5th place start for Johan Lindberg. That will feel like Christmas has come early with the season he's had so far. So he's an absolutely brilliant battle. Now, an interesting debate going on between Matthew Marquardt and Daniele Brambilla, the GPVWC Academy driver. Brambilla stating, Matthew, I'm not sure I'm at fault in your crash. You brake checked in the middle of the corner. So that is interesting. That is an interesting debate from Brambilla, the Academy driver. Or maybe it was lag. I don't know. So he's talking about it quite matter-of-factly. So the GPVWC Academy driver holding his own corner, which is very good. Now, Lorenzo De Coitis has joined us. Thank goodness for that. So he's only going to miss the first race. So an interesting one there. Matthew Marquardt says, yeah, we'll talk after. I definitely didn't touch the brake. I'm not Lewis Hamilton. Oh, no, sorry. Johan Lindberg says he's not Lewis Hamilton. Ouch. That's a little bit political, isn't it? Considering what's happened in the last 48 hours. Ouch. We'll talk about that a little bit later, I think. So, yeah, an interesting stance there from the two drivers in the incident there between Daniele Brambilla and Matthew Marquardt. One saying, well, I definitely didn't touch the brake. One saying, yeah, you did. Matthew Allington counteracts with, it'll be lag, if anything. So that's good. He also says, don't jinx it, Jake. We've only just got our first bit of good luck for almost 2 months now. Okay, I'll say you're going to have a rubbish race, and then you'll have an absolutely brilliant one. How does that sound? Is that all right? Excellent. That's the way the conversation curse works, isn't it? If you say they'll have a terrible one, if you say they're going to have an awful race, they're going to have spectacular one. So both cars will be in the drink by the first corner. That's all I'm going to say. Right, and then hopefully they'll have a great race. Right, Menno Klont then will start the race from pole position alongside his Stax Racing teammate, Chris Shepherd. That's going to be an interesting run to the first corner as well, because, of course, both of those drivers are racers. They'll want to be the first one to get to the first corner first. They'll have the obvious battles behind in the likes of Maciej Minek and Roy Schroeten wanting to get a decent start. Don't count out Bastian Paisler for a good race in this one as well. He quietly got on with the job and finished there in P3 in the first race. Very consistent and solid driving from him. And I have a feeling that he could end up being quite an interesting battle in there. Interestingly, Chris Shepherd asks Roy Schroeten, what happened to you, Roy? He says, I won. Oh, I had no idea. Oh, Chris Shepherd. He says, well done, Roy. So busy having his own race, Chris Shepherd. He didn't know who won. Absolutely brilliant. It only happened 10 minutes ago. Don't worry. It's not like it's motor racing or anything. But Chris Shepherd, oh no, Chris Shepherd writes, I thought I saw you spin and was behind me. You must have been looking at the other Schroeten. That must have been Mike Schroeten who spun. So that'll be the reason why he wasn't sure if it was a race performance or whatever. So an interesting one, that. But the warm-up session comes to an end, and we're getting ourselves a second race. And I have a feeling this one will be even better. We only had 2 retirements from that first race. That's the second best race for attrition we've had this year after the first race of the entire season in Australia all the way back in March, when we had just the 1 retirement from the start of the race. Now we've had 2, 27 race finishers. But I have a feeling this time drivers are going to be pushing it a little bit harder in this second race. And with drivers out of position, once again, it's going to be an interesting one. So there's several drivers out of position on the starting grid here as well. Don't forget that we need to keep an eye on. It should be an interesting start, in particular for Johan Lindberg in 5th position on the grid. I have a feeling he could run to 3rd position by the first corner if he gets a better start than Clemens Wild and Bruno Sousa Pereira. So he could well be challenging for the victory in this one, never mind the podium. Roy Vazil should be interesting to watch from 12th on the grid as he tries to fight his way forward. Philip Koenig will want to beat his teammate Conrad Barr off the grid, but then he's also got to run scared from Maciej Minek and Roy Schroeten behind him. Who else is out of position on the starting grid that'll be worth a watch? Well, you've got the likes of Matthew Marquardt in 25th on the starting grid, Mike Quint and Mike Schroeten right at the very back of the grid in there with Lorenzo De Cuitis. That'll be an interesting run, to be fair, and there's several drivers who'll be charging their way through the grid. So it's definitely worth keeping an eye on, because there's so many drivers in the mix who will want a decent start on this race. Just a few seconds before the start of the rolling lap, and it is going to be a very interesting one with drivers all over the circuit hoping to get a good start from this one. But a lot of eyes in this one are on Johan Lindberg, who 2 weeks ago said, enough is enough, I can't do it anymore, I'm not having fun, I'm not enjoying it, I'm walking away. And today he just decided, you know what, I'll just change a few setup issues, I'll work with the car a little bit and see what happens. And now he finds himself in the top 6 of a starting grid, unlikely to be involved in the dramas that he's been so irritated by in the early part of the season. But let's wait and see. 18 laps of the circuit. Let's talk you through the grid. It's a Stax Racing front row with Menno Klont in pole position and Chris Shepherd in 2nd place after their 11th and 10th place finishes in race 1. Good race potentially for Chris Shepherd. Clemens Wild is 3rd position in the Arrow International car, and then in 4th position alongside him is Bruno Sousa Pereira in the Basvik Grand Prix car, or Basvik Grand Prix car, I should say. Johan Lindberg, 5th position, all eyes on the YTF1 driver, maybe a podium on the race, which hopefully will stop him from retiring. David Junt in the Red Arrow Racing car in the top 6. Then it's an all MDR Motorsport 4th row with Conrad Barr just alongside his teammate Philip Koenig. 9th position on the starting grid is Bastian Paisler in the Holland Racing Team car. 10th place is the Scuderia Basilia driver and championship leader Maciej Minek. Race 1 winner, Roy Schroeten in the Thunderdog lines up 11th alongside countryman Roy Vazil in the TR Blue Voss car in 12th. Matthew Klipp is in the Royal Blue Racing car in 13th on the starting grid alongside the point-scoring Academy driver Daniele Brambilla in 14th. The mighty 4th got into the points again. Paul Joseph is 15th on the starting grid alongside Terence Grech in the TR Blue Voss car. Nicholas Dimitris in the Red Arrow car lines up 17th on the grid alongside the TTF racing machine of Rauno Muro in 18th on the starting grid. Then the first of the downforce cars, Thomas Andrea Mariosa is 19th alongside the EJ Engineering car of Wesley Stefano. 21st is Casper Onwin in his Arrow International car alongside Mark Breslin, who came home 22nd with damage. in the mighty fourth. Noah Kuchera struggled home to 23rd in the Royal Blue Racing car, while a frustrated Jaden Wright lines up 24th in the second of the downforce cars. Matthew Marquardt will line up 25th in the YTF1 machine, ahead of Brett Metcalf in his TTF racing car, hoping for no damage. Ryan Nash in his Academy car bounced and bucked his way to 27th, ahead of Mike Schroten in the 28th place car. 29th is Lorenzo De Coitis, and Mike Quint is, I think, going to be starting the race potentially from the back of the grid, unless he doesn't start the race at all. I think he's had more connection issues. We'll have a look with Mike Quint as the race gets underway, but I think Mike Quint is going to start this race from the pit lane at best, and possibly not at all, but we will find out. The lights are going to go on this next couple of seconds here at the Hungaroring, and we will get racing underway. We get ready for the action here at the Hungaroring circuit. Lights come on. We're ready for war here in the second race at Budapest. Ready? Alonzi! Great start from the front of the grid for Chris Shepherd. He's going to get up alongside. Lindbergh's going to go. Oh, there's an absolute pile-up! An absolute pandemonium pile-up further back. All sorts of cars in the wars. That is an absolute nightmare. That's surely going to be a red flag. Surely that's a red flag. Absolute carnage, and I want to try and see where that all started. Well, Jaden Wright was in there with several other drivers in the mix. I'm trying to see where that all kicked off in the mid-pack. I think it was a slow starting midfielder. Yeah, it was a spun car in the mix. That was, I think Casper Onwin was involved in that one. Paul Joseph was involved in that one. Bruno Souza Ferreira, I think, was the initial problem in that start, because Bruno Souza Ferreira was on the second row of the starting grid, of course. So real problems for Bruno Souza Ferreira. He didn't get off the line. That's where the problems came in. So Bruno Souza Ferreira stalled the car on the grid, and it was everybody else trying to avoid him. Yunt gets out of the way, no problem, but Philip Koenig goes straight into him. So busy watching his steering wheel, no doubt, that he goes into him. Souza Ferreira goes into the back of well, Souza Ferreira went into the back of Paisler. I think it was Maciej Mlinek who then went off the circuit again into him. So all sorts of carnage on the first lap, and there was more pandemonium further around the lap as well. So the race has just been red flagged. What an absolute disaster. So all of that will now be wiped from the record. And goodness me, that was drama. So we're getting a few more drivers chatting away. Someone didn't start. Yes, of course, that driver in particular was Bruno Souza Ferreira. He stalled the car, and that's what caused the accident. So yeah, Bruno Souza Ferreira stalled the car, and that's where all of the drama has come from. Just trying to pick up on some other bits and pieces. Well, that is, I tell you what, the luckiest man in Hungaroring is Mike Quint, because that now means with the red flag start, he can join the race. So absolutely amazing. Matthew Allington points out there was another huge crash round at turn 11, I think it was. There was another big pile-up. So actually, Gerdono says it could have done with an 18-lap long safety car, because, of course, his two cars were still first and second. But no, red flag was definitely needed there. Absolute pandemonium. So race director has once again told people to be careful on the start. It was, in fact, it was a problem for Bruno Souza Ferreira on the start line. He stalled the car and then just got driven into, unfortunately, by Philip Koenig. And that's what started the chain reaction. Wow. We breathe a sigh of relief as the race can get going again. And for Mike Quint in particular, it really can get going again. He can now take up the position on the grid, P28, in front of Mike Schroeter and Lorenzo De Coitis. So he, in particular, will be very relieved. Bruno Souza Ferreira from P4 on the grid will get a second chance, but he can't mess up the start this time. Oh, take a breath, Jake. That was crazy. That was absolute carnage. And really a definite good call there for the red flags. So now the race is going to restart in just a few seconds' time as the cars get themselves back into position on the starting grid. We'll run through the grid one more time, of course, as well, because the drivers will be going round for another green flag lap. And the drivers will be suitably nervous going into this second start because, of course, there's not been many red flags this year. Obviously, every time anybody got off the line in any form of car at Monaco this year, we had to have some form of investigation, at least, into whether there'd be a red flag. Not every race was red flagged, I should point out. I think the Super League guys got away with it. But let's talk you through the grid again. Stacks Racing 1-2 with Menno Klont and Chris Shepherd, first and second on the starting grid. Clemensville is third on the grid in the Arrow International car, ahead of fourth place man Bruno Sousa Ferreira in the Pacific Grand Prix car. Don't stall it, Bruno. Johan Lindberg starts fifth on the grid on row 3 in the YTF1 machine, alongside the red arrow of David Junt in P6. Then it is an MDR fourth row with Conrad Barr and Philip Koenig in 7th and 8th position on the grid. I wonder how close they will battle in this one. Bastian Paisler in the Holland Racing Team car lines up 9th position, hoping he'll dodge carnage this time, with Matches Minek, championship leader, starting from P10. Race 1 winner Roy Schroeten in the Thunderdog will start 11th alongside Roy Vizil in the TR Blue Voss Motorsports car in 12th on the starting grid. Matthew Klipp in the Royal Blue Racing car lines up 13th alongside the Academy racer in car 100, Daniele Brambilla. Paul Joseph in the Mighty 4th will line up in car 25 in 15th on the grid alongside Terence Grech in the second TR Blue Voss car, who lines up very neatly there in 16th on the starting grid. Nicholas Dimitris looking for another strong race in the Red Arrow in 17th, alongside Rauno Muro in the TTF Racing car. Thomas Andrea Marioso is the leading downforce car in 19th on the grid, alongside Wesley Stefano on the 10th row of the grid in his EJ Engineering, rounding out the top 20. Casper Onwin will line up 21st in the Arrow International car. Alongside him is the Mighty 4th of Mark Breslin in 22nd. Royal Blues Noah Kuchar will be hoping to stay out of the wars in 23rd on the starting grid, alongside the Australian, very frustrated, Jaden Wright in the second downforce car. Matthew Marquardt will be tussling his way through the field from 25th on the grid in the YTF1 machine. Brett Metcalf will line up 26th alongside him, again hoping to move up through the field. 27th will be Ryan Nash in the second Academy car, hoping not to act like a pinball this time. Mike Quint in 28th on the grid in the Scuderia Basilia car will be surging through from the back, as too hopefully will be Mike Schroeten in the Thunderdog car, the second of those two, in 29th on the grid. And we welcome back to the fray the second Holland Racing Team car of Lorenzo De Coitis from the back of the grid. So the cars are once again lining up into position as the tension builds again for what promises to be a thrilling second race. Drivers getting themselves into position on the starting grid as the cars are now just lining up. The last couple of cars in there. Lorenzo De Coitis will be the last one to park up as the racing gets underway. The revs will rise once more, and is it going to be a clean start this time? Let's find out. Ready, go. And this time it is a clean start from everybody all concerned. Oh no, there's an even bigger shot further back. Brambilla shunts in there with Muru. Oh my goodness, there's another big shunt further back. Now, is that going to be a red flag this time? Because there's a big shunt once again further back down the order. Now, I want to see that one again because I think there's it is a stall on the grid this time from Daniele Brambilla. Brambilla stalls it this time. Now, the race is continuing on. Brambilla is going down the start-finish straight, spinning multiple times, trying to get the car going again. But the race, in essence, is actually going. And Menno Klont is leading from Johan Lindberg. Lindberg is in second. Chris Shepherd is down to 5th off the start from Bruno Sousa Ferreira in 3rd. Wilt is 4th. Shepherd 5th from Paisler, Koenig, Schroeten, Junt and Ninek. And I know there's a couple of incidents further back, but I don't think that's going to be a red flag this time. Brambilla is out. Oh, there's another shunt, though. There's another shunt. Mike Schroeten's gone off the road. So too is Matthew Marquardt. Several drivers in there. Conrad Barr has gone all the way down the back of the field. I'm not sure how that's happened, but there's several drivers in the wars. Matthew Marquardt is one of them. Several drivers then getting involved in several incidents at the start of this race. But I think this time we will continue on regardless. Menno Klont leads it. Johan Lindberg is chasing him down. Tally ho, Johan. This is going to be one. Get onto the back of Menno Klont. Now, where are the championship protagonists? Roy Schroeten is 8th, tucked in behind Philip Koenig. And Maciej Manek is still down in 10th behind David Junt. What a race this is turning into as Johan Lindberg closes right up on Menno Klont in the braking zone. He will wait for his moment. Daniele Brambilla explains why his game froze at the start. That is a real disaster for the Italian, who did so well in the first race. But hopefully there will be more from him in the future. Menno Klont, though, in front of Johan Lindberg. Bruno Sousa Ferreira in third position from Clemensville. Chris Shepherd, Bastian Paisler. Philip Koenig is 7th from Roy Schroten. David Junt, Maciej Minek and Roy Vizil in 11th from Greg, Klip, Joseph and Dimitris. Those are your point scorers at the moment. Then it's Onwin, Quinn, Andrea Mariosa, Kutra, Jaden Wright, Ryan Nash, Mark Breslin, Brett Metcalf, Conrad Barr, Matthew Markard, Mike Schroten, Lorenzo De Cuitis, Wesley Stefano. Rauno Miro is in the pits, having had damage in that incident with Daniele Brambilla, with the Italian unfortunately out of the race due to a game freeze. Now, Lindberg is right on the back of Menno Klont. Let's have a look and see if Lindberg can get onto the back of Menno Klont. The battle for the victory is now raging, with Klont in the lead and Lindberg second. Sousa Ferreira in third position this time, trying to get away from Clemens Vilt and Chris Shepherd. Shepherd may be the first one to really start the attack from the front row of the grid. He has slipped down to 5th position. I'm not entirely sure how he did that, to be honest. We'll have a look at that back later, no doubt. But Klont versus Lindberg has only just got going. I'm riding on board with Johan Lindberg, and he's got Menno Klont in the slipstream. He's going to have a go here, surely, into the first corner. Menno Klont defends. Lindberg dives for the inside. He decides to hang back in the hope that Menno Klont's going to drop it. They need to be careful not to do too much of this battling in the early stages, of course, because they've got to look after tyres. If Lindberg can just sit behind Menno Klont and look after his tyres, then that is going to be a really interesting race for the second half of it. So Lindberg's got to be careful. He can't just go ugly early. He's got to think about tyre life. Sousa Ferreira in third from Wilt, Shepherd, Paisler, Koenig, Schroten, Junt and Linek. Here comes Linek trying to make the move on David Junt into turn 4. He thinks better of it. It's so hard to pass here. So hard to pass, and the drivers are working very hard to make their way through the field. But in the early stages, you've just got to build a rhythm. This is only lap 3, don't forget. So Menno Klont leads, Lindberg second, still only a quarter of a second behind him. Sousa Ferreira third from Wilt, Shepherd, Paisler, Koenig, Schroten, Junt and Linek. So Maciej Linek is hoping to score some decent points from this one, but down in 10th position. Oh, Conrad Barr is out of the race up in top. So Conrad Barr, with a suspension failure, I'm afraid, is now out of the race. I'm not sure how that happened, I'm afraid to say. But Conrad Barr was already having some difficulties in the early part of the race. And now I can't count back, unfortunately, that far, but his race has now ended. Some good battles in this one as Linek has moved up past David Junt onto the back of Roy Schroten, and he did it into the right-hander before the pit lane, before the penultimate hairpin. So good move there from Maciej Linek. Now he's onto the back of his main combatant for the race, for the championship as well, Roy Schroten, who's tightening up behind Philip Koenig. 8th and 9th position, these two cars. Well, this is the GP3 of GPVWC, but this is actually better than the real thing for my money. Koenig in front of Schroten and Linek. Junt in 10th position from Vazil, Greg, Klip, Joseph, and Mike Quint. I made Paul Joseph sound a little bit more foreign than he actually is there. Apologies. I've had a problem with my worms there. I'll get it right next time. Right, Bastian Paisler closing up to the back of Chris Shepherd if he can get there, but Clemens Vilt is soaking up the pressure from him at the moment. Lindberg has closed right up on Menno Klont, so I think Klont has had a little bit of a mistake there on the last lap. And that's brought Johan Lindberg right underneath him once more. So the YTF1 driver pushing very hard indeed. Interesting how all of a sudden Matthew Allington goes quiet. He is starting to bite his nails as he watches Johan Lindberg push on the back of Menno Klont. Goes very deep through turn 11, but he has kept the car very nicely in check there. What a battle this could end up being between these two. As they come into turn 15, through the left-hander now, and up onto the far side of the circuit, through that final corner that goes on and on for... You have to second-guess when you get on the throttle, especially when the back end wants to come around, the second you get on the throttle. Bastian Paisler having an interesting race at the moment in 6th position, trying to get away from the Koenig, Schroten, Linek tussle. David Junt is not dropping off the back of Maciej Linek either, so this could really spice up this battle. Johan Lindberg is now right underneath Menno Klont. He may decide to go for the move into turn 2 and lead the race if he can go for the inside. He has a look, has a think about it. Menno Klont leaves him space, hesitates. There's a little bit of contact. Lindberg starts back in a second position. It looked as if both drivers were hesitating about that move. And now that means that Bruno Sousa Ferreira, oh, contact further back as Koenig collides with Wilt. Wilt has gone and Chris Shepherd has gone with him. Oh, that's Chris Shepherd trying to make the move on Clemens Wilt. I want to see how that happened because Shepherd made the move initially on Clemens Wilt. Wilt just shut the door on him. They just about coast through together. Bastian Paisler gets on the inside line. And it looks as though Paisler ran Shepherd out of road. Shepherd goes into the wall, big style. His race is over. How everybody missed him is a mystery. And in the same moment, Roy Vazil. Oh, Vazil has collided elsewhere with Matthew Klipp, I think. And Terence Grech in there as well, I think, as well. So Grech with so much damage. Several cars in trouble there as a result of that one. Oh, my goodness. Matthew Klipp is out of the race. Roy Vazil is out. Clemens Wilt is out. Chris Shepherd is out. So the body count, as it were, is really starting to rack up in this race. Dear, oh dear. Major shunts around the circuit. Brett Metcalf is still going, I do believe, although he's got a repaired car, having been involved in an incident earlier on. Mike Quint has had an off as well. Mike Quint has had an off. I think he was involved in that earlier shunt, actually. So Mike Quint had nowhere to go. This is an absolute write-off for Mike Quint's weekend. A winner at Silverstone. And now spinning into the barriers because he's basically got what looks like a makeshift Formula Ford car. But now Menno Klont has got Johan Lindberg and Bruno Sousa Ferreira right underneath him. So it's a three-way battle for the lead. Pace's now fourth from Koenig, Schroeten, Mlinek, Junt, Dimitris, Kuchera, Breslin, Onwin, Wright, Andrea Mariosa and Marquardt. That's the battle we've got at the moment. Sousa Ferreira has a go at Lindberg. Can't get through. Has to hang back. Johan Lindberg defending beautifully. Bruno Sousa Ferreira misses his braking point a little bit there into the chicane. Somehow gets the car to stop travelling at the apex. Pace is still fourth from Koenig, Schroeten and Mlinek. And those three are very close together. Junt is eighth. Dimitris is doing a great job in ninth place. But that little off earlier on has separated them from the rest of the pack. Gap is now 15 seconds as Kuchera has a think about ninth place. Thinks better of it. Breslin is in 11th place. Onwin 12th from Jaden Wright, Marquardt, Andrea Mariosa, Mike Schroeten. Lorenzo de Coites in 17th from Ryan Nash, Stefano, Muru, Metcalf, and Paul Joseph with Terence Grech in the pits. Mike Quint is coming into the pits as well. But we've lost Klipp, Vazil, Wilt, Shepherd, Barr, and Brambilla. So Menno Klont leads. This is where Lindberg gets a lot of speed in the draft from Menno Klont. Is this going to be an opportunity knocking? No, he thinks better of it. There's a long way to go in this race, don't forget. If Lindberg look after the tyres better than Menno Klont, then he will get him in the last couple of laps anyway. A couple of drivers really looking for a strong finish to this race. Nicholas Dimitris is in 9th position at the moment, holding off Noah Kuchera and Mark Breslin. Casper Onwin looks very good in 12th place. The gap between 8th and 9th is about 16 seconds. As there goes Noah Kuchera to the inside of Dimitris. Kuchera goes through and takes 9th place. Don't worry about it, Nick. You've still got a chance in this one. If you look after your tyres better than he does, you'll get him back anyway. Dimitris goes straight for it. Well, locking up the tyre and flat spotting isn't going to do any good. Matthew Marquardt, meanwhile, has got past both the downforce cars of Jaden Wright and Thomas Andrea Mariosa. So Menno Klont leads from Lindberg, Sousa Ferreira, Paisler, Koenig, Mlinek, Schroeten, Junt, Kuchera, Dimitris, Breslin swarming all over the back of him from Onwin, Marquardt, Wright and Andrea Mariosa. Now Matthew Marquardt is trying to step up the attack on Casper Onwin in 12th position. Won't be long before he can go for it. As Matthew Allington makes a very strong point there as Marquardt goes a little too far in the chicane and nearly loses the place to Jaden Wright. Neither of the three drivers in the top three, make that the top four, have not won a race this year. None of the drivers in the top four in this motor race have won a race so far this season. Bastian Paisler has yet to take his first win. Philip Koenig has yet to take his first win this season. So none of the drivers in the top five have won a race this year. Klont, Lindberg, Sousa Ferreira, Paisler and Koenig. Mlinek is in 6th now, having got past Roy Schroeten. Junt is down to 8th. But none of the top 5 drivers have won a race this year. And all 5 of them will feel they can do it. But if they start messing about with each other, then Maciej Mlinek in 6th position is going to be the man who picks up the pieces. Now, Lindberg knows he's got to get on with this a bit now. We're in lap 8 of 18, but there's now 6 cars right behind him. So he needs to get through and see if he can build a bit of an advantage to Menno Klont to deaden some of the battle. Earlier on, he could afford to sit behind him. Now he needs to get by. So he needs to time this right, because he's got 6 drivers right underneath him. Chris Shepherd makes his way into the stream from the pit wall. He is out of the race. What a shame. Just 4 laps in. That's all he got out of this second race. What a shame. Now, 5 drivers in the top 5, none of whom have won a race this year in Formula Challenge, with Mlinek and Schroeten in 6th and 7th ahead of David Junt. This is going to be one heck of a battle. Menno Klont leads, Johan Lindberg 2nd, Bruno Sousa Ferreira 3rd from Bastian Paisler and Philip Koenig. What a top 5. None of them have won a race this year, and all of them want to be on the top spot, and all of them have the ability to be there Linek is 6th from Roy Schroeten, David Junt. It's a long gap back to Noah Kuchera from Mark Preston and Nicholas Dimitris in 11th. From Onwin, Markard. Onwin nearly goes into the barriers there with Wright and Andrea Mariosa right behind them. Now, Lindberg tightens up behind Menno Klont again at turn 1. He cannot afford to just gung-ho up the inside. He has to time this right. He's got to look after tyres. He can't afford to worry about Bruno behind him. He needs to preserve the life of the tyres. Let's see if this can work out in Johan Lindberg's favour. Menno Klont goes a little bit too far on the exit of turn, but he's got space to Johan Lindberg, not to worry about that too much. Bruno Sousa Ferreira is defending. Big start from Bastian Paisler. This is exactly what Johan Lindberg and Menno Klont need. As Koenig goes right around the outside and Paisler spins it. Paisler drops it in the middle of the corner. So Paisler now falls to the back of the queue. Koenig takes over 4th place and is now tussling after Bruno Sousa Ferreira. Now, fortunately, there's a big gap back to 9th place. So Bastian Paisler slots into 8th position, but that would have murdered his tyres. So Bruno Sousa Ferreira now in 3rd place. Philip Koenig is 4th from Maciej Linek. Linek, the championship leader, is going to try and make his way through. But this is going to be tough as Linek comes so close to hitting the wall as he goes out 12. Goodness me. That was such a big moment there for Maciej Linek, and that was very nearly game over. Whispers the wall. Roy Schroeten right underneath his championship challenger. Are there going to be any Vettel-Hamilton-style shenanigans between these two as they battle for the victory out of the final turn at the Hungaroring to complete lap 9, halfway through the race? 9 down, 9 to go. Klont has 0.8 of a second on Lindberg. Lindberg has dropped back a little bit because he can afford to. He can afford to preserve his tyre life just a little bit. Now, Matthew Allington says, I think that was contact with Philip Koenig. Is he referring to Linek or Sousa Ferreira? I think he was referring to Linek, actually. So that could be a really interesting problem. Or is he referring to the spin from Bastian Paisler? Well, Paisler is only 2 seconds behind David Junt, so he recovered very quickly there, actually. Koenig still 4th in front of Maciej Linek. Roy Schroeten in 6th. But Johan Lindberg is doing exactly what he needs to do here. The gap has opened up to 2 seconds between the leader and Bruno Sousa Ferreira. And Sousa Ferreira is now under pressure from Koenig. So this is good news for Lindberg. He can just hang on to the back of Menno Klont. Allington was referring to Bastian Paisler. And yes, there was a little bit of contact between Koenig and Paisler. And that's what put him off. Sousa Ferreira runs wide in turn 11, and that is going to bring the battle back to him as he goes through turn 13. Koenig now runs wide. Linek is going to get a chance on him, surely. Down into the 14th corner. He thinks better of it. He's still got time. But this is gold dust for Lindberg. He just needs to sit behind Menno Klont. Let him do all the work. And then with 2 laps to go, if he's got better tyres than Menno Klont, he can start pushing him into a mistake. This is almost a karting style battle with these two out front. They've broken clear of the rest as Nash goes out of the line down the straight and moves over and lets them through. He really needs to get out of the throttle if he's going to let these two go. He does so into the first corner. Good boy, Ryan. And Lindberg has not lost any ground to Menno Klont there at all. In fact, if anything, he's actually gained a little bit in the toe as Thomas Andrea Mariosa and Jaden Wright swap positions there. So Andrea Mariosa was 14th. He's now in 15th. Meanwhile, Matthew Marquardt has got up into 12th position and he's dropped the on-win Wright Andrea Mariosa scrap as Mike Schroeten closes in on it. Towed along by Lorenzo De Coitis, Wesley Stefano, Rauno Muro, Paul Joseph, Brett Metcalf, Ryan Nash, Terence Greck and Mike Quint still continue on. Now, Lindberg is only a few car lengths behind Menno Klont. That's fine for the moment. Bruno Sousa Ferreira getting held up, though, behind Ryan Nash. This is a real problem unless you're YTF1. Nash moves right aside. Sousa Ferreira goes through. Koenig goes through. Linek is going to get held up a little. Roy Schroeten and David Junt have gone through no problem. Oh, Junt very nearly spins. Just catches it. Bastian Paisler still in 8th position, but Nash causing a bit of a headache there. Not much you could do about it. Meanwhile, Matthew Marquardt in the second YTF1 car is now closing up on Nick Dimitris in their scrap for 11th place. So good battles everywhere you look around the Hungary circuit. But Lindberg is still right behind Menno Klont as Nash gets out of the way of him halfway around the lap. And no problems as far as he's concerned. Still looking good for Menno Klont and Johan Lindberg. One of these two, if things remain as they are, with 7 laps to go, is going to be the race winner. We're into lap 12. Lindberg tightens up in the braking zone, underneath Menno Klont. Sousa Ferreira still runs in front of Philip Koenig with Linek and Schroeten 5th and 6th. I don't see that changing at the moment unless there's going to be something pretty dramatic as Thomas Andrea Mariosa has hit the wall. Andrea Mariosa, I think, has gone off the circuit at turn 13. Casper Onwin has lost the place to Jaden Wright. And Andrea Mariosa, I wonder, did he think he could do the same thing? Oh, he got too wide, off onto the grass, lost the back end, big style, and bang into the barriers. So Andrea Mariosa is out of the race. That's a real shame. Oh, and off goes Koenig! Off goes Philip Koenig! So that's Minick going through and Schroeter going through. So Philip Koenig is now down at a P6. David Junt is going to be his next target. So Minick is through in a 4th. Schroeter is through in a 5th. This is not good news for Bruno Sousa Ferreira. It's great news for Menno Klont and Johan Lindberg. It takes the pressure off a little bit. So Menno Klont still leads the way. Lindberg in 2nd. Sousa Ferreira has dropped back a little bit off the leading 2. And this is a chance now for Maciej Mlinek to show Bruno Sousa Ferreira how it's done. But Bruno is going to want to hang on to this podium finish if he can. Let's not forget that Bruno Sousa Ferreira has a 2nd place finish from Sochi earlier in the year, and he wants to get another podium finish. So Bruno Sousa Ferreira yet to win this year, but the top 3 drivers in this race have all still yet to win. As Matthew Mark and Mark Breston has got past Noah Kuchera as well for 9th position. Good moves there. Lindberg still on the back of Menno Klont. We're on lap 13, 6 to go. Sousa Ferreira in 3rd. Minick is in 4th, still trying to close him down. And he's putting him under some pressure. Again for Maciej Minick. A 3rd position would not be a bad return for his efforts here. A 2nd and a 3rd would be pretty convincing. But of course, he's got the adage in the back of his mind that if Lindberg and Klont come together, that he could end up in the winner's rostrum once again. So Sousa Ferreira holds his mark for 3rd position in front of Minick. Schroeter in 5th from Koenig and Junt. Bastian Paisler not too far away in 8th place, but not close enough to challenge, as Noah Kuchera is chasing down Mark Breslin once again. Markard in 11th, Dimitris 12th from Jaden Wright, Casper Onwin and Mike Schroeter now 15th in front of Stefano De Koitis, Rauno Muro, Joseph Metcalf, Greg and Nash. No other finishers. So Menno Klont has got Johan Lindberg right underneath him now. This is where Lindberg will start to figure out where he is in terms of tyre life. Now, if that's something that can be read by the team boss as to how well Menno Klont's tyres are doing, he can relay that back to Johan Lindberg and start to give him information as to how Menno is doing with his tyres compared to how Johan is doing with his. It's going to be a really interesting battle. Down the straight, is Menno Klont going to be able to hold off Johan Lindberg? At the moment, that seems to be yes, but we have got 5 laps to go, and this is where the tyre life is really, really going to be poor. Now, Andreas makes his way into the stream. Hi, guys. Can I join your league? Yes, you can. GPVWC.com. Get yourself signed up in the Formula Challenge driver market, and who knows, you may well end up in the GPVWC Academy car next time out in 2 weeks' time. We run races every 2 weeks. It is a full-length championship all through the year. And, of course, this is Formula Challenge. Tomorrow night is Super Cup, which is the next tier up. And the night after that, Thursday night, is the big one, the Super League, the Formula 1 of GPVWC. Same time, same place for 3 consecutive days every fortnight. It's a great racing championship. And here we've got a great battle all the way to the death, with tyre degradation really coming to be an issue. Back end out through turn 11. Catches the car, though. Mega slide, but Lindberg is an old hand at this. He knows. He goes very deep into the curve at 13, but he's able to keep the car underneath. So Klont and Lindberg still the leaders. Sousa Ferreira doing a cracking job here in 3rd position to hang on in front of the championship leader Maciej Mlinek and race 1 winner Roy Schroeter. This is terrific work. So still Lindberg putting pressure on our race leader Menno Klont, but neither of the top 3 drivers in this race yet to win a race. Now Mike Quint has finally decided to retire, so Mike Quint's race is over. I didn't see where he retired from the race. Matthew Klipp out of the race earlier from that little pile-up earlier on, of course, as well, which also took out Roy Vazil, Clemens Wilt and Chris Shepherd, all in one fell swoop. Conrad Barr on the 3rd lap, and Daniele Brambilla had a stall on the grid, and then all hell broke loose from there. Menno Klont in front of Johan Lindberg. Just think, 2 weeks ago, Johan Lindberg said, I'm done with Formula Challenge. It's not fun anymore. I can't do it. It's just too hard, and there's no point in driving around for the sake of it. Here he is battling for the victory, and he's got his mojo back. Maybe if he pips Menno Klont in this one, we might see Johan Lindberg remain in the YTF1 car for the rest of the year. I sincerely hope so. Johan is a fantastic character, one of the ambassadors of the fun element of GPVWC, and despite running wide there, it'd be great to see him go for the victory along with Menno Clont. Now, Bruno Sousa Ferreira behind him just ran wide twice in almost as many corners. Lindberg is caught right up to Menno Clont again in the braking zone, but Bruno Sousa Ferreira is doing everything he can to keep Maciej Minek and Roy Schroeter at bay. Philip Koenig has tightened up, by the way. David Junt is right in there. Bastian Paisler is catching them. So there could be a 6-car scrap for third position with 3 laps to go. Clont and Lindberg out of the final turn. Menno Clont is soaking up all the pressure in phenomenal fashion here, doing an absolutely supreme effort to hang on to this lead. Lindberg's got him on the braking zone, but he's not going to throw it up the inside. This is not the lap to do it. Lap 16 of 18, he's got time. Bruno Sousa Ferreira is driving out of his skin at the moment. He knows that's the championship leader behind him. He's not going to be cannon fodder for him. He is going to make him work for it. A very talented driver indeed is Bruno Sousa Ferreira. He's not had a lot of luck this year, but if he hangs on to this, he'll be elated with third place. Maciej Minek will have to be content with fourth. He runs right over the curbs, Maciej Minek. That gives Bruno Sousa Ferreira a car length or so of relief. Roy Schroeter sat in 5th position, is just waiting for an opportunity to pounce. Koenig is there in 6th from David Junt, and Bastian Paisler in 8th position from Bresten. Oh, Bruno Sousa Ferreira loses the place to Maciej Minek. Now, that was off the exit of the chicane. Maciej Minek just lined him up beautifully, and this is where Roy Schroeter can now go for it. So Maciej Minek is on the podium. Now, can he catch the 2 cars in front? That's the big question, as Koenig goes very wide off the circuit, and David Junt has to swerve to avoid him as he rejoins. So Bruno Sousa Ferreira drops down to 4th position, but Maciej Minek getting the move done there. Patience. Good things come to those who wait. Now, Minek has been released in 3rd position. Now, if he's still got good tyre life, he can close up on Menno Clont and Lindberg. Lindberg has dropped off the back of Menno Clont a little bit as we go into lap 17 of 18. Has he pushed the tyres too hard? Has he got to be content with 2nd place or potentially 3rd if Maciej Minek closes up on him? I think Menno Clont might have just done enough here on the tyre life to hang on to this, because Johan Lindberg is doing his best to stay with him. He just doesn't have the same pace as he did a couple of laps ago. So I wonder if he's just edged out the car a little bit too early to try and get the gap down. Well, watch from Linek, though, because he's dropped Roy Schroeter. Koenig, Junt, Sousa Ferreira now down to 7th position in front of Bastian Paisler. So Bruno Sousa Ferreira, he ran wide on the exit of 2. That's why he lost the places. I was too busy watching Maciej Minek, but he runs wide at the outside of 2, does Bruno Sousa Ferreira, and that's what's cost him the place. Now he's struggling to keep Bastian Paisler at bay. Paisler trying to come at him in the chicane and hasn't quite managed to make the move stick, but you get the feeling that Paisler is not far from doing that. So Clont continues to lead. Lindbergh 2nd. Look at Minek! Look at Maciej Minek. He is absolutely charging after these 2. If he's got better tyre life, he will be on them in a heartbeat on this last lap. He brings the gap down to a 2nd. Maciej Minek could snatch the win from both of them. Jenson Button, Canada 2011 at your heart out. He might come back from 3rd to win this, never mind 2nd. But Clont and Lindbergh are going to do their best to hang on to these positions. Clont and Lindbergh have worked very hard out in front. Neither of them have won a race this year. Can Linek catch them and pass them both? Well, Matthew Allington writes, rest in peace, YTF1's victory hopes. Linek is with us already. It's got to be to do with tyre life. It's got to be to do with how those 2 cars up in front have worked their tyre life. Well, Lindbergh is caught up to Clont again. So maybe there's just that slight chance that if Lindbergh can get past Menno Clont on this last lap before Linek has a go, then Lindbergh will have enough in his pocket to get the victory. That's his only chance now. Lindbergh has to pass Menno Clont, or he sacrifices potentially 2nd place, because Linek is going to want to get past him. Menno Clont's got a good line, though, through turn 5, up through turn 6 and down to the chicane. Lindbergh's got to defend here. He goes too deep. The backhand steps out and Linek hits. Lindbergh goes off. I don't believe it. Oh, no, that is hard. 2nd position was on the cards, and now Maciej Minek has had to hang back with Roy Schroeter. And that is going to give the victory to Menno Clont. Lindbergh retires on the last lap. Oh, no. But Menno Klont is going to pick up his first win of the season. Whatever happens, it's a disaster. It's cruel. It's harsh for Lindberg. He did so well. But now it is going to be a victory for Menno Klont. And I'm afraid it was Lindberg who lost it first. Into Mlinek he went. And here's Menno Klont. He takes the victory in the second race in Formula Challenge. Mlinek in second. Roy Schroeten in third. A pair of second places for Mlinek. A first and a third for Roy Schroeten. And the first victory of the season for Menno Klont. He'll be delighted with that. Philip Koenig is fourth from David Junt and Bruno Sousa Ferreira. Bastian Paisler seventh, with Mark Brestin due to come home in eighth position. Here he comes. Noah Kuchera will be ninth, and Matthew Marquardt will save some of the bacon for YTF1 by bringing his car back to 10th position. Nick Dimitris is going to come home if he stays where he is in 11th position. Jaden Wright in the downforce car has got Wesley Stefano all over the back of him, so that's not done yet. The Marquardt comes through for 10th place. Dimitris is going to come through for 11th. Jaden, hang on to it, for goodness sake. Wesley Stefano all over the back of him. What an absolutely cracking race that was, but it's Wright who's going to come through in front to the flag. Stefano outfox him as they come over the line, and I think Stefano got him on the line. No, just Wright in front of Stefano. Casper Onwin 14th. Rauno Miro is 15th. From Mike Schroeten. Schroeten and Joseph are banging wheels as they fight for 16th position outside of the points. They're having a terrific tussle, but Joseph is going to beat Mike Schroeten to the place. Lindberg sadly is out. Metcalf has already come home in 19th. Greg is 20th from Lorenzo de Cuitis and Ryan Nash. Wow, Menno Klont gets the victory, and he is donutting at the chicane. His first win of the season, Menno Klont. Great performance from the Stax Racing driver. He led every single lap of the race, but what an absolutely terrific performance. Wow, absolutely amazing. There are a few drivers who are so happy. I've noticed that there are a couple of drivers chatting away in the chat room. Wesley Stefano and Lorenzo de Cuitis are having a bit of an argument, I'm afraid to say. Not everybody's had a clean race, but Menno Klont has taken the victory from Maciej Mlinek and Roy Schroeten in dramatic fashion. Such a devastating end to the race, though, for Johan Lindberg. That could so easily have been a victory, never mind a DNF on the last lap. Oh dear, what an absolutely heartbreaking end to the race. Well, let's talk to a few of the drivers then who made that race an entertaining one. We'll bring in the man who's got two second positions out of this race. Let's have a chat with Maciej Mlinek very quickly. Sorry, Maciej, I know you were in the midst of a race chat there with Bruno and Chris. I wanted to bring you in very quickly, though, because I wanted to see how many more would join you. But 2 second places there. An absolutely cracking result for you, Maciej. I mean, that is as good as it could be, really, after the race you've had today.
Could be better in race one because I spun on my own. I saw on the chat that my teammate disconnected and it distracted me and I spun, unfortunately. But in race two, I think I couldn't do better. And also congrats for Menno for his first win in the season. He wanted that so badly.
Yeah, and to be fair, in terms of the championship battle, we've just been watching Menno Klont doing there while you've been chatting about him. He's really delighted with this one. I have to say, you scored 40 points this weekend. Roy Schroeten has scored 41, so it's almost as if it's all square in the championship fight, and that's not a really that's technically not a bad way for things to have turned out.
Yeah, if this will be possible to keep it like that until the end of the season, I will be happy.
Absolutely brilliant. And now, of course, we move on to the next round of the championship. It's the halfway stage of the season. Things must be looking really positive for the rest of the year now.
Yeah, Hungary was that track which I didn't like. And I think if I finish that good on the track I don't like in the first half, I think second half can be the same or maybe even better.
Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic result today, Maciej. Well done. A pair of second places. Good points scored. Well done.
Thank you.
Right, let's bring in the other championship protagonist in the battle there. It's time to bring in Roy Schroeten after a race 1 victory and a race 2 third position. Roy, good race result for you here today. It was a tough first race. Tell us about it.
Yeah, it was a very weird race for me, weird round, because I really didn't feel like I had the pace to battle the likes of Maciej and Chris here. in qualification, I always seem to be a little bit slower than during the race. My real pace seems to start up right at the beginning of the race with the high fuel loads, but I was able to stay behind Mathieu, keep him within striking distance. My internet played some funny tricks on me again, but nothing too critical for me this time, luckily. And then I just decided to keep it clean. I'm happy that I haven't spun like I did in Silverstone this time. This time it was Mathieu's turn to spin around a little bit. It's a shame for him though, because he really had the pace and he should have beaten me easily. He was just playing with me because after I passed him, he was able to catch up so quickly. It was insane. So, but I was able to keep it clean. I was very lucky, and I didn't really feel like that comfortable on the track. But yeah, I'm happy overall with the race win. I can't complain with that. And then in race 2, it was very hard with the dirty air, just impossible to overtake. I made a little mistake. Mathieu was able to slip by me. I just decided to keep it on the track and keep that behind him. I tried to push, but my tires went very bad very quickly. And just, yeah, some mistakes of other people managed to bring me up on the podium. But other than that, it was impossible to overtake today.
And of course, coming away from the Hungarian Grand Prix weekend, Roy, you were 58 points behind Maciej at the start of the weekend. You're now 57 points behind him at the start of the weekend. So you've made up a bit of ground, but you're going to need to find something pretty spectacular to keep that gap coming down.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm going to do my best in the summer break, of course, to try to find that few extra tenths, because at the moment it doesn't seem like it's that much, but I'm pretty sure that Mathieu is just playing with us all at the moment. But most importantly for me is that Chris Shepherd lost some points out today. He had a very good pace, but had some bad luck. But I guess that's everybody's experience during a certain race in this season. I was able to catch up, to gain some points on the guys behind me. So that's most important at the moment for me. Mathieu is going to be very hard to keep track and to overtake in the standings in the second half of the season. But of course, I'm going to try, but it's going to be hard.
Fantastic. Well done today, Roy. A brilliant victory and very well deserved. Good job.
Thank you.
Right, so we've talked to the championship leader. We've talked to one race winner today. Now let's get the other race winner after a light to flag victory from the reverse grid pole. 11th in race 1 was frustrating, but Menno Clant, at last, you are there with the victory for the first time in 2017. How awesome does that feel after so much pressure?
Well, it feels amazing. Hats off to Jon Lindberg, who pushed me the whole race, and I think for me that was best. I think if I had a bigger gap, I would have made silly mistakes, but he kept me honest, and yeah, he deserved the win. Well, nearly as much as I did. But yeah, I believe 2 weeks ago I was talking about my bad luck, and about I always get into incidents, and a race 1 today, I got hit by my own teammate, and I was in P28 or P27 or something, and I was like, oh no. And the car was not feeling well after the hit. I didn't lose my front wing, and I thought I'm just trying not to give up, and hopefully I get a reverse grid. I was hoping on P15, and well, in the end I got P12, and with 2 corners from me, and I got P11. Well, yeah. And would I know that would be the reverse grid? And then yeah, I got it. I got pole, and I knew this was my chance, especially on a tidy circuit like this. And then I had my teammate next to me, and I was like, oh no, he will pass me and drive away, and yeah, we drink champagne at the finish line maybe, but yeah. It was amazing. Yeah, I pushed really hard. I had no top speed, but I had good exits. It's a bit like you see on other races. So yeah, it was just enough. Lindberg had 1 or 2 looks, and I was very happy he didn't pass. It's a shame he didn't get the podium, because he had a great drive, and his whole season went from bad to worse, like mine until today. Well, actually, my season wasn't too bad, but yeah, half of the races were.
Absolutely incredible,
Yeah.
though. And obviously that
Yeah.
means as well that you're going to have some really interesting fights. And by my math, I think that puts you into 5th position in the drivers' standings. So
Yes.
that's going to be really interesting for 4 weeks' time when the championship comes back at the Nürburgring.
I need to break. I need to break. I think now you will see a more relaxed man. I always put pressure on myself. I know I can do it. I can win in theory, but then you need to do it. And I think, but now these results on the board, it will be more relaxing, and hopefully I can be here soon, because this is awesome feeling. And I think Roy will agree. This will never be boring winning.
Well, fair enough. Fantastic. It's great to see you in the winner's Menno. An absolutely cracking job. Well done. Right, let's try and grab some of the other drivers who were in the Hungary antics. I want to grab Bruno Sousa Ferreira into the room, actually, because Bruno genuinely had a good crack at the podium today. Bruno, that was, to put it in a word, I guess that was frustrating, but a really, really strong performance from you nonetheless. It must have been so difficult to look after the tyres in the closing stages.
Firstly, I would like to apologize for race 2, the start. I stalled it, so completely my fault.
Yeah, that was an interesting one. What happened there?
Because the way I start, I don't put auto clutch on because it ruins the start. So literally, I didn't give enough gas basically to get off the line. So, but yeah, it was completely my fault. Anyway,
okay.
Race 2, it was really difficult to keep the tires after a while, because I was trying to follow Menno and Johan, but after a while, my front tires just went away, and I couldn't keep up the pace. So, yeah. And towards the end of the race, I think I made one mistake on the chicane where I let match it through, and then I had a double downshift on turn 2, which let the other positions through. But overall, it went okay.
It was a really, really tough race, to be fair. And all weekend, drivers were struggling with tyre life. Have you taken some good lessons here to take to the Nürburgring in a month's time?
To be honest, I think I never really struggled with tyre life. I think it was more down to this track, honestly, because I've only gotten down to 50% on my front tyres, on my worst tyres. So that isn't bad considering.
And that's very true indeed. Well, Bruno, thank you very much indeed for the entertainment. We wish you all the best heading for the summer break, and looking to see you back at your A game again at the Nürburgring. Good job.
Okay, thank you.
Right, we're at the halfway point of the season, and I think it's time to do a little bit of a retrospective with one of the teams. We've picked at random just to kind of gauge how things are currently going for this one particular team, and it's a team that's making progress in the 2017 season, the Red Arrow Racing team. And their 2 drivers have had a very entertaining day at the office here at the Hungaroring, David Junt and Nick Dimitris, who have both scored very strong points here in this particular meeting. First of all, we turn to David Junt. David, good solid points finishes in both races. There could have been a little bit more towards the top 6, but I guess the progress being made is good.
Certainly, absolutely. I mean, I came into this and felt never really on pace in qualifying, and didn't quite settle down into a pace that was anywhere near like the top 10. I felt, even though it seemed like it was like just like half a second to it. But well, with 16th, I was just making my usual strategy of just keeping out of trouble. Yeah, so I grabbed 6th in the end of race 1, which was a lot more than expected. But thanks to just trundling around, to be honest, I was just like following most cars until they either went off or not, and could like just look after my tires. So they felt good till the end, and I was managing easily. And in the second race, well, before the aborted start, I could have probably taken that one, since I kind of nicely evaded Bruno's car, I think, but had then, well, an average start and a second restart. So, well, it's a direct first restart, of course, but I had no second. So yeah, just kept there. Waited for some mistakes, dodged the spinning Chris Shepard, I think, and in the end 5th, although it could have been 4th, but I made too many mistakes in the end trying to stay close to Koenig when he struggled. And to be honest, I was a bit lucky to get that 5th as well. So with some dirty air, with less wings I had, tried something, it didn't quite work out, did a bit more wear. So I'm really happy with 5th and 6th, which I think put me 3rd now in the driver's standings. And it's even more points for the team, which is very nice.
Absolutely. So you're not missing life at the Downforce team in any way, shape or form at all, I'm guessing? No chance of that.
No.
Fair enough. But no, it was a really tough race. And you mentioned it there, particularly in the second race. It was about keeping your wits about you when other drivers were starting to make mistakes. I guess that was where you were really able to kind of read the situation around you. You had a good opportunity to bag some good points because you weren't pushing it too hard. You weren't overdriving the car. You were literally just waiting for the race to come to you.
Yes, I as I said to David in Team Channel, I was like in observation mode, just looking at the cars ahead, either if they try to pass somebody or spinning or not. And so, yeah, I took advantage of the people spinning since to change the wing settings and maybe other stuff. I didn't felt like the grip I had before was still a nice feeling, but it wasn't quite as easy as in the first race to get to speed, even though the lap times were okay. So I was just following the train of, I think, Koenig, Maciej, Roy, and Bastian. When he spun, I got that place and then just made sure I stayed close to Koenig so I could, not get caught by him again. Had a scare with Ryan Nash in one turn, wasn't sure what he would make, and then we had a small clash there. Luckily, car was okay, so I kept the position. And as I said, it wasn't enough for attacking Koenig in the end, as I was starting to struggle as well. But 5th and 6th before the event, once again, I would probably said wouldn't have happened, but taking it gladly.
Well, it's a brilliant result, and you've done an absolutely cracking job today. Well done. Good job. Return to your teammate now, Nick Demetrius. Nick, that was such a good first race. It just kind of fell away towards the end of the race, but you really made up for it in the second race. A great result and very strong points.
Yeah, first race sort of I pushed from the get-go and kind of wrecked my left front. So I was kind of struggling towards the end of that race to keep up. I tried, but it wasn't really happening for me. So unfortunately, I finished 2 places out of the points. But then in the second race, I sort of decided to go with the option of a small change on the car, and then also just keep it cool and let the race come to me, much like David. And then obviously there was a big incident early on in the race, which put me into the top 10. And from then on, yeah, managing the car, managing the tires, let the race come to me, and then yeah, managed to bag P11 in the end. So really, really happy with that. Highest points finished for myself and more points for the team. So yeah, enjoying it.
And obviously now that means that there's more to come from you guys. The car is getting easier to set up. You guys are starting to get a handle on it more. We're starting to see you guys in the top 10 more frequently.
Yeah, I think it's coming to us. I think we can bounce ideas off each other and set the car up. It seems to be working. We've always got more to do and improve, and I think we can hopefully go higher. But David is doing a fantastic job, and I'm picking up the pieces at the moment. But hopefully I can propel myself a bit higher.
Okay, well, an absolutely cracking job. And I know that team boss David Fidek is very proud of both of you. A lot of the progress that you guys are making, it's really starting. Well done, guys. Cracking job today. And of course, Nick Demetrius and David Yuan. Well done, boys.
Cheers, thank you.
Right, time for one more, I think. Just one more is the charm, and it's Philip Koenig. Philip Koenig will join us into the broadcast chat as our final man in the interview room. Philip, really interesting race from you today. Race 1, such a great battle to see you there in the top 5. And then again in the top 6 in the second race. You really seem to enjoy the Hungarary circuit this weekend.
Well, yeah. Hello, guys. Yeah, I love the Hungarary. It's one of my favorite tracks, especially in Formula Challenge. I think it's a aside from the other cars, this one is quite a high-speed track for Formula Challenge. And yeah, I like it. It has a good flow, and I always felt comfortable here. And it's a bit of a shame that I couldn't fight for a podium, especially in race 2, where I had a stupid mistake to the end. And yeah, I mean, P4 twice, that's really good. I'm really happy with that.
Yeah, there was some consistent points there, and there were some opportunities. I mean, in the midst of battles, you were able to put yourself in a really strong position. I wonder, what is it going to take now to kind of keep this form going when we go to the Nürburgring in 4 weeks' time? Can you guys keep this kind of pace up in the second half of the year?
I hope so. I'm not exactly sure if I will be driving in Nürburgring, if I will be able to finish the season, because I'm quite busy with my work right now. But yeah, during the last 2 races, I found quite a decent setup, which didn't really show in Silverstone, because I think I was taken out during the first lap twice, and it's a bit of a shame. But I thought Hungaroring, well, I like the track, so I give it a go.
But it was really good to see you up there, showing, some really good driving performances there with the Bastviks and with the YTF1s, a couple of other teams in there. You were really starting to show some strong form. The more we can see you in the second half of the year, maybe more that we'll see you battling for the podium. You haven't been there yet, but there's signs that, after Australia was such a good start to the year here at the Hungaroring, maybe you've turned a corner and this could become more regular.
I hope so.
Excellent. Well, Philip, thank you so much for talking to us. Thank you to all the drivers as well. It's been an absolute cracker of Formula Challenge. We're about to wrap up the feed, but don't forget, of course, that tonight at 7:30, same time, same YouTube channel. We're going to be on the GPVWC for Super Cup, and it's going to be the boys from simnews.tv who'll take you through the coverage of that. Of course, Ben Willis and Kasper Kolodijczyk. Then myself and Josh Anderson will be back in the saddle once again on Thursday night, same place, same time on Thursday night for the big one, the Super League in the championship battle once again. Can anybody continue to charge after Rudy Van Buren? Will there be another new race victory? We'll find out. But here in Formula Challenge, the halfway point has been reached, and it's Maciej Menek who leads the way in terms of the points. Menno Klont has hit the top step for the first time, but with 4 weeks to go till the next round of the championship, there's a lot of stories that are still yet to be played out in the second half of the year. I'm Jake Sanson. A huge thank you to David Francic on cameras, and to everybody else on the team for guiding us through 2 fantastic races in Formula Challenge. The championship will be back in 4 weeks' time for the 10th round of the championship at the Nürburgring in Germany. Until then, enjoy tomorrow night with the Super Cup. I'm Jake Sanson. Good night for now.